Right.
There you go.
Okay, Joe.
We'll help you out.
Joe Biden moment. Forgot to turn the mics on. So there you go. He didn't have a very good night last night. As a matter of fact, I was in there getting a coffee, and this was there. I had to purchase that to find out what the heck was all about because I didn't really see the news conference or the NATO conference. And
Did anybody? Was it televised?
I didn't.
They-
I don't know. I didn't look. I didn't watch. I saw what I saw on.
all I know is that the
Online this
news,
morning.
media was all over it. And
You say with Vice President Trump and President Putin.
Yeah, I could believe that.
Yeah, he got some names confused, and there were some
So
faces being
really?
made by
President
some of
Putin.
the leaders of the free world, and I don't know. I just started reading some of the article, and it's not good.
Wow.
So
I mean, there are cases where we, even ourselves, will forget names.
Yeah.
Misinterpret a name by accident. But,
World
Yeah.
leaders.
and who are you?
yeah, I mean, we could do it, but unfortunately, it's just become worse now with him because he just.
The man has a disease. He does. He's got a disease, and it's sad that they're putting him
on
through
display
this.
like they're doing,
And
it's
that they're
terrible.
ignoring it, and they're
Terrible.
saying it's not a big problem. But now he's on the national stage, and everybody's watching it, and it's embarrassing.
You saw the German
So-
chancellor's
There's a chance. Is that
prime minister, they call her now.
yeah, the prime
Yeah,
minister
yeah.
of Italy? I thought wasn't it
Italy or Germany?
Italy or Germany?
No,
I
she-
don't know, one
yeah,
of them.
They
But
called it Italian
Yeah.
because of the I.
Oh,
I think she
okay.
was Italian. I think she was German.
okay. Anyway,
It doesn't matter. Anyway.
No, she still made a funny
It's-
face.
yeah, it's not good.
They'll blame it on jet lag this time. It's not a cold.
I'm tired, jet lag,
Yeah,
cold,
jet lag, yeah.
whatever.
Been traveling a lot. Okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you notice that his voice hasn't changed. He talks very, very quiet. It's
Yeah.
almost like a whisper.
It's confused.
He constantly talks
Yeah.
like that. It's not a cold. So
Dementia
why-
and Parkinson's will do that to you.
Oh,
Mhm.
no? See, I didn't know that.
I saw a guy getting interviewed on NBC, which leans more left. And there's a doctor on there, a Parkinson's expert, that was saying he's got Parkinson's. He's got every
Every sign.
sign of it,
Really?
and people are just, and he said, I can't believe there's people who are just saying there's nothing wrong with him. But
8 visits to the White House by Parkinson's doctors. And
that was
not
for the
him.
military.
And
Yeah,
not
that was
for him.
military.
If it was for the
project.
military, you wouldn't be reading about that.
If you were in the military, nobody in the military would be having Parkinson's. I'll tell you that. That would
No.
not be.
Not in the White House.
You wouldn't pass a
Not in the White
physical
House.
and get in the military with Parkinson's. I'm sorry. So us American mob, I guess they must think we're really stupid, but
They count on it.
Well.
they count on it.
Wow.
So anyway, so I had that all. I couldn't pass up not picking that paper up. I mean, it's just a sad
Did you pay for it?
state of it. Yes, I did. I
It's
did
like
pay
the
for it.
Daily Comics.
It's only
Yeah.
$3. I thought but it's not funny.
No, it's not.
It's not funny.
It's one thing if the guy was just making stupid, honest mistakes, but the guy's got problems.
Yes.
He doesn't even know.
And we've got
He doesn't know.
one of two of our large political parties pushing this guy.
Right.
And if you've got Parkinson's or dementia, something like that, you don't realize what's happening.
No, you don't.
You don't. You think everything's status quo.
Yep.
And people are telling you everything's great, you're doing great, and he's believing it, and it's just sad. It really
Parkinson's
is.
affect the brain a lot, or is
You
it
can
just
get
neurological?
Parkinson's-related dementia.
Okay, I never really followed up on Parkinson's. then.
No, I'm not a doctor, so I wouldn't know. Maybe the nurse would
only
know when she
because
shows up.
Somebody in my family's got it right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
so it's what happens. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that would-
I am familiar with dementia. My dad had that.
Does Bruce Willis have Parkinson's?
Hmm?
What's
he
his
got?
face?
Somebody's got it.
Yeah.
The actor,
Michael
Yeah.
J. Fox
Michael
has
J.
it.
Fox for the years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's got
Michael J.
Parkinson's.
Fox
yeah, he
has it.
shakes all the time.
Yeah, he's got the
yeah.
shaky stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but last time I saw him, he was actually could talk.
Yeah, he can talk.
He goes in and
It
out.
doesn't seem to have.
I
lost
don't
his
know.
memory.
I haven't seen him in several years. I don't know how bad it is. It must be pretty bad.
It was really bad.
It's not a good disease. It's not.
Well,
Not easy to get through, and I'm sure the caretakers, the wife, the spouse, whoever,
they take care of him,
it's just
It's a lot.
it's a
I
lot.
can tell you that.
So
which is why he's not supposed to be up all night and stuff. You got to take care of yourself, and that job destroys you.
well, it's just gonna.
Stress will
job.
definitely strengthen that disease in a heartbeat.
Yep. Anyway, that this whole thing is just turning into, it's going to be interesting what they do in the Democratic National Convention, which is
I don't
what,
think he's got
3-4
a chance
weeks,
of being reelected
you know,
or renominated rather.
or nominated.
Yeah, the only problem is, as we talked about, is if they don't reelect him or renominate him, he doesn't get the money this year. Whoever gets in doesn't get that money. They'll get his delegates, the 4,000 delegates or whatever he's got at this point. But unless, like you said, unless it's Harris, they don't get that money that's sitting
Right.
in that war chest, right?
I don't think it's going to be Harris. I think
I don't think so
they
either.
want to present.
Yeah, I don't.
You know,
think
she
so.
hasn't done a
Put
good
in-
job being vice president, doing
Well,
what she
he's-
was being
If he's
being
not
asked
going
to
to be
do.
nominated, why does she have to be nominated?
Well, she has-
They don't.
She has
She's
no
done.
experience other than what she's been doing.
Right.
She was an attorney general in California.
Yeah,
And how
that's
what
about
good
it.
what good job did she do in California? The
Well,
crime
I
rate
don't
in
think
California has
that-
been
yeah.
awful, even before these 4 years she's been in.
Well, she's-
People are leaving California because they're scared to death.
She solved the border crisis, though.
Oh yeah, she did. Yeah, she
Yeah,
stopped
she
it.
solved it. She opened it right up. And
So
no problem.
they opened it right up, and
She
now we
was-
got.
She was tasked with it, but she never made it there.
We could find a plane.
Air Force 2 couldn't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to
Anyway.
be interesting to see what the Dem- I don't
It's
know a lot
they're
about
they're
Obama.
they're in a bad spot, but they put themselves in the bad spot.
Yeah, they
you
could
know.
have brought this out months ago,
Yep.
a year ago.
They could have
knew,
they could have got somebody.
That's
and
the
they
problem.
could have done it and straightened it out.
Well, I
like
have,
that, but
I have a feeling being the GTC, they got a plan that's going to allow them to get the money. It's got to be.
I'm sure they'll do something.
And I don't think
yeah.
they'll care. They'll just take the money and
They'll
pass
do
it
it.
on.
Yeah, they'll find some way to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ask for forgiveness
Yeah.
later.
Exactly.
Mm,
Who's going to do anything to them?
true.
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
The
today's National
judicial
French
system
Friday.
is certainly left.
Today's what?
National French Friday.
National French Friday.
French
Yep.
Friday?
Yep.
You all get free French fries?
Yep, today's French Friday.
So if I go to
Always the
McDonald's, I
second
get free
Friday
French
in
fries.
July.
What?
Really?
It's always the second Friday in July.
Oh, okay.
So it's
It's good to
National-
know.
Wow.
Yeah.
All
I'm
right.
going to put
Every
that
year.
down.
So there you go.
Good to know.
Go to McDonald's and get some fries, if you can remember.
God.
Larry Knupp says her dad has dementia and constantly stops mid-sentence.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You
Yeah,
can
I-
tell by the blank stare that.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's not good. I remember my dad was alive. He walked out to his truck, started it up, and it wouldn't start. And I said, "Hey, Dad, what are you trying to do?" I said, "I'm trying to start my truck." So he opens up his hood, the battery's missing. And so somebody stole my battery. And I look over on the shelf in his garage. What's that? I said, "That's my battery. What's it doing over there?"
Mhm.
He took it out. So we put it back in. Hooked it up, and the truck started right up. A couple of days later, he's trying to cut the grass. The tractor won't start. Pull the hood off.
No battery.
The battery was there, but the cables are
Unhooked.
disconnected.
Hmm.
So that's the stuff. And that was the beginning when I realized
Sure.
this. My dad's got a problem.
My brother-in-law is the one with Parkinson's, and I've talked to him on the phone a couple times, and you can definitely hear it when
Yeah.
you talk to them. They're very quiet. The sentence doesn't go to the end. I mean,
Yeah.
they stop midway through, forget what they were talking about. It's
Apparently, Biden was doing a lot of that last night too,
yeah,
when he was being asked questions.
It's not
So,
pretty. by
yeah,
any
it's not.
means. No.
I feel sorry for the man because I can see what it can do to people.
Yeah, and he
You've
did
seen it
that.
with Parkinson's. I've seen it with dementia, and
Well, my
it's
father had dementia. Yep.
so.
And he did that news conference to show that he could really, be a candidate.
Yeah. It backfired,
Kind of backfired.
and I don't think it's not going to get any better.
They can't fix it.
No.
There's no way.
It's not going
There's
to get
too
any
much
better.
out there. You can't cover anything up like that anymore.
No, they can't fix it.
That and his medical records are public.
No, this
knowledge.
whole thing about all
You see some sailor.
they're
got in
putting
trouble trying to
AI
access
stuff
his
out there, and
medical
I got
records.
no, you're not.
Twice within a couple hours, some sailor got caught trying to access his medical records, and he didn't get them. But they didn't boot the sailor out of the Navy, but they disciplined him and whatnot. But that was on the news the other day.
I didn't catch that.
Well,
But,
I read it. It was
yeah.
in the news.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
medical records are kind of private. So-
Yeah, I know.
Oh yeah.
not the president's.
Oh, not the president's.
Nope.
No. Oh, okay.
Now, if you're in public office, I guess they can pull your records,
I think
pull your
you're-
taxes, all that stuff.
Everything.
So-
Yeah.
Huh.
It's all public knowledge.
So-
Okay.
At least the physical. I know the physical.
I don't know about the
is-
in-depth part.
Yeah.
I'm sure HIPAA still covers something.
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, I don't care if he's got gonorrhea or something, but the
Well, Trump could have that.
possible.
Yeah, hey,
He's probably got some hush money about that too. I don't know.
Yeah,
You know, don't tell anybody I got gonorrhea.
With the
Here's $1 million.
With, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could put up for trial for that too.
Yeah, he got it from the storm.
Storms are blowing.
The storm came through.
The storm came through.
Well, then there's the department store issue too. You know, I mean, you catch it in the dressing rooms.
Mm,
Oh yeah, yeah.
dangerous place.
Mm.
All right, so we've had some stuff going on in town this week, right? We had some meetings and things like that. Want to talk about those?
Did we?
Oh,
Yeah, we did.
Oh, I didn't notice anything happened.
We had a couple ordinances go through, right?
Yep.
oh,
It
ordinances? What about ordinance? Oh. Guess you don't have to abide by that.
So before we start doing that, so we had votes. We had votes for 3 ordinance changes. One was for the town clerk. One was for the tax collector. One was on the Commission of Aging. And the town clerk and tax collector was about going from elected to appointed. And there's a lot of information and a lot of good. There's actually, I was glad to see there was 35, 36 people there.
By the
Quite
count,
a few
yeah.
people.
Yeah,
By the count.
35.
There's twice as many people for this than there was for the referendum being pushed forward for the budget,
Correct.
which I would think would affect a lot more people, but that's
Well,
okay. But it was good to see, and there's a lot of conversation, a lot of good conversation about the topics and stuff like that. But and the only problem I think a lot of people had was the language.
Yeah.
They wanted some clarification of some of the language to protect those 2 positions once they became appointed. And it was a close vote for both the tax collector. Tax collector was 1916,
Both of them. Yep.
both of them.
Oh,
Commission on Aging was removed because it was decided that the senior center and the director pretty much covers everything that's covered in that ordinance or,
Yeah.
or the commission's responsibilities.
Yeah, I remember we talked about it in the meeting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And everybody was, well, most people, I shouldn't say everybody, that's probably a bad statement. Most people were in agreement that the job's being done without actually having a commission that no one goes to anyway.
Well,
Yeah,
there was
so-
5 people who thought differently the other night, right?
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
there were it
I couldn't
was
understand
Me
it. One
either.
person standing up saying, "Nobody goes to the senior center." Come on, give me a break.
30 to
Now,
5.
Because they had
he said some people
Yeah,
don't
Eric
want to
Wilson
deal with the
was-
senior center, okay, and that could be a fact. And maybe he doesn't want to, but there's a lot of people that do. But it is an avenue to go to if
It's
you
there.
have any.
Well, it's not
You
wanting
pay-
to,
you gotta pay
issues.
for it.
yeah,
It's
not
like we
wanting
use
to
it.
deal with the senior center is not wanting to go to the tax collector to pay your taxes. That's where
Yeah.
you go. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
it's
So?
a choice you make by not wanting to go there. But
right.
Well,
So
it just goes to show you that the word appointee in hire was put in by our freaking legislators because it was a state statute. They're the ones that confused the crap out of everybody.
Yeah,
I
well-
mean, if you're run a business, you don't appoint, you hire.
Exactly.
And that, I mean,
2 totally different words with different meanings.
yeah. So that just goes to show you where our legislatures' heads are. Where the sun don't
So,
shine.
but the other thing is part of it,
Appointed is
and I
almost
know
like
the
elected.
register of voter that I was talking to, their Democrat was. We went through the statutes while this was going on, and part of it was basically calls out if you're going to appoint somebody, you have to put some kind of a term
The time
in
frame.
there, right?
It's got to have the time.
And that's what the
the statute.
statute said. So,
Well,
and that was one of the language issues that was talked about.
appointed is almost no different than elected. You know,
Yeah.
that's
It's like a contractual employee.
yeah, exactly. Or
Yep.
contractual or hire them.
Well,
make
yeah,
them
It wouldn't be
employees.
contract because the only ones that I know of that get contracts are people in executive positions. They're the only
True.
ones that get
Yeah,
contracts.
general managers, things of
Yeah,
that nature.
yeah,
Right. Right.
Yeah, so they're
Well,
the
a lot
ones
of towns, the
that VPs.
they do have a lot of those higher positions. You're not the assistant, you're the actual clerk. So you are the manager of the clerk's office. So that's why the assistant would be a union member, and then
Yeah.
Other position traditionally is not a union position.
Correct.
It's a contract position.
Right, because just like when you go into a normal business, you have non-exempt employees and exempt employees.
Well, so when they opened up the meeting, they talked about this. Somebody asked a question. So how are these people protected? And we had one selectman say, well, they're going to be union. They're going to be fine. And then the other selectman said, no, they're not union. This is not union position. Something like that. And if you look at the definition, I think the union would have a problem because both positions are professional positions, right?
Yes.
And we were having that problem down Millstone when they were talking about bringing unions in and then the difference between professional and labor positions. So,
But they said that they can join the union.
Right.
So if
They
they
can.
can join the union and it's in a union environment, whether they join or not,
It's up to
they
them.
trust me, if the shit hits the fan with either one of them, they still get union representation. Even though they're
Yep.
not in the union and they don't pay dues, the union still has to represent them. I mean, you might not get their best representation, but you still get it. That's the right to work laws or something.
Yeah,
I think.
right
Yeah.
to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of those positions, a lot of towns will have and cities will have what are called the admin union separated
We had
from
AFSCME and we had IBEW, right?
So you have an admin union, then you'll have the, for lack of a better term, on the floor
Yep.
unions. So you're all protected by the union, but you're different representation because one is management, which
Correct.
means they have a right to discipline.
Yep.
They have a right to set policy.
Correct.
They have, so all of that, you cannot be in the same union as those that you
Mhm.
actually manage.
Mhm.
As long as you can discipline them, you cannot be in the same union.
Yeah.
And the selectman that made the comment about those being union positions, 5 minutes later was the same one that said, well, they can join the union if they want. Now, he made it clear that they were union positions and then changed his tune a little bit, saying they weren't, but they could join the union if they wanted to.
yeah.
And that's why I asked, well, have you passed this by the union?
Right.
Because if positions are close to being as other jobs,
Yep.
the union can demand to bargain that position.
Well, and I think a lot of people had a problem with the fact they didn't even bring this up with the ordinance committee.
Yeah.
Which you and I are both on.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
and
why
and we had,
saying.
and I'm not, and I don't hold it against them, but we're here to help. They got plenty of other stuff on their table to deal with.
Well,
That's
then
why
if
you need to-
weren't looking
you
to
should-
rewrite.
they should be
their policy, but maybe
delegating more.
clarify some things would have been good.
That's-
Well, I sent an email a month ago, and Rich did call me or texted me, said to call him, and he talked to me. Hey, that's all
Yes.
about. There's the queen.
I was
Hey.
thinking 9:15.
Oh, she's pretty early. Oh, boy.
9:20.
I have things to do.
All right, so we got to reorganize a little bit. Rich Canova, slide over that a little bit, and then we'll try and get Kathy to, slide over next to Rich.
Yeah, you do. We got to get the viewings.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like you spent like 2 hours on your hair. Come on, you got to
Yeah,
use get on
right.
camera.
Spent an hour because I was sleeping. And,
No,
yeah, I woke up and you were in the bathroom already doing your hair.
not for an hour. There's nothing I can do to it. I just kind of do one of these. I'm fine.
Yeah, she's fine.
Want to put your hand out?
She's got to stand up that way. When I'm
If she wants,
on
if she wants to sit, she'll kick me out of this
Just
chair. So anyway,
well, that's why I
we're
brought
talking
it up.
about,
Late night last night?
yeah,
Going back there, let's face it, they were all concerned about her losing the job.
right. That's the
We're
main.
talking about somebody who's been in a freaking position for how many years? And you just can't fire somebody. You've got to document everything and how to get rid of them.
Yes. Well, you were a manager. I was a supervisor, and other people probably are familiar with the fact that you have
Yeah.
to document
I don't
everything,
get it.
right?
They were so concerned about her losing her job. Well, you just can't just go say.
Well,
you're
it's
outta
not
here.
just her. It's not just
The clerk
Leona,
either.
the
Right.
tax collector's been in that
Right.
position. I don't know how many years she's been there.
I don't know. One time.
You know,
Depends
same
on
thing
which
with
one we're talking about.
same thing with Val in the town clerk position, right? She's been there many times.
And you're talking about replacement. There's a job description that says define what this job is and what the qualifications are. I can't believe you don't have any qualifications for a goddamn tax collector. If we don't, we better write one.
Yeah, same thing for the town clerk. I mean,
Yeah,
they
there
have
are.
state statute.
Yes, state
type of
statute.
qualifications,
Yep.
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah.
It's,
But they get hired and then get qualified, and that's statewide.
And they have a time
qualified
frame to get it
statewide.
done.
Right.
Mhm.
And if they don't get it done in that time frame, they can get let go. right?
My-
But what's
Well,
that-
that's right.
what's
And that would
time-
be in the
Yeah,
qualifications.
but what's that time frame? You listen to Val talk about the cycle.
So the thing was,
2
there
years,
was
5
there was a
years? Yeah.
lot of talk about. There was one that was, I think, 5 years.
depending on
They
how the
wanted to
cycle goes.
shorten that to like the 3 years, like the other one.
Yeah.
Right. I think the town clerk was 3.
Yep.
Or the you know,
So I thought it was
the
something
collector
like
was
2.5.
3 and the clerk was 5, I think.
Yeah.
But either way, they wanted it shortened to more like 3 years, right? Instead of 5 years, because it take 5 years to get.
But it sounds like that might not be feasible based on what Val was saying.
Yeah,
It sounds
if
like,
you fail-
didn't
if
she
you
say it took
fail
her almost
one-
10 years?
Right. If you
Because
fail,
of the
if
cycle
you
of
have
the
to wait till
you
you
fail a
classes.
test,
You have to wait a
and
year.
you got to wait till that cycle comes back around where they're giving that test again.
Oh, you mean the
Couple
state's not
years.
helping us out with
So
that?
a lot of the problems you run into with these jobs, like the fire marshal, for
Yep.
example, you have to be appointed by a town to even qualify to take the class.
Mhm.
Yep.
So you can hire people that are already pre-qualified, but those people are slim in between because a lot of people are comfortable where they are. They don't.
Right.
They're going to want to jump.
Well,
ship.
you got to talk about salary
Right.
too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know,
So-
they could be making 10 grand more somewhere else.
Right.
So, but if these positions go union, maybe they will be making more.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a
And the
possibility
town-
too.
and the
They
town
go
can't
union and the
stop
union may
the
fight for
union.
more pay for
Right.
them.
I
Right.
don't know what these positions are. Are they, like I say,
Doesn't matter.
my old days exempt or non-exempt?
Yeah.
Right.
Are
Right.
they hourly or are they salaried? I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, that you're still going to consider the union. You don't
One
have to-
way
Yeah,
or
you can
another.
join the
Right,
union.
yeah,
Yeah.
And the town can't stop that.
Right.
And honestly, I hope that if they do join the union, that they do get more pay. But there go your taxes
Oh,
and
yeah.
things
Yeah.
like
The
that.
ripple
You
down
know,
effect, yeah.
right? So, yeah, I'm not against the change,
But again, that goes,
but I just think there needed to
that
be
goes
more
to the quality
details.
of the people you're going to have, though.
Right.
Because if you don't pay,
You don't
guess
pay, you
what
don't
you're
get
not
it.
gonna get.
Yeah.
Right.
If you get somebody,
I mean,
you know,
Yeah.
It's as it is.
You get what you pay for.
It's a requirement now.
But
You
here's
have to-
here's the problem with this building a file and building a case against an employee or whatever like that, right? The leadership of this town has a 2-year term. When I was a supervisor, I was in that job for 20 some years.
Mhm.
So you constantly have these employees and you give them evaluations. We started giving them like 3 times a year, 4 times a year.
we had
Right?
Wow,
we had
that's a
yearly,
lot.
yeah.
So, you know, it used to be just once a year, and then
Yeah.
you know they wanted that supervisors to have more conversations with their employees and yada
Right.
yada yada, right?
Usually
But the
twice.
final,
Yeah,
the final one at the end of the year was the one that it's based on their raise or whatever, right? Now, if you get different people every 2 years, you're not going to have
How can you have any?
you'll never
Yeah.
have a
I
good
knew it
case
was
to
that.
get rid of
Yeah.
anybody if they're not doing their job,
Right.
right? Because you got different people's viewpoints on.
The one leaving isn't going to sit down with the one coming in and say,
Of
"Hey,
course
you know,
not.
Tommy, this,
Right,
well,
yeah.
they're not going to go over all that. It's not going to happen.
And,
There's no continuity."
It didn't happen even with the
and in
first
most
selectman.
cases, your discipline, if you're
Yep.
good for a year, well, a lot of contracts will delete your discipline if you've been good for a year.
Not where I worked.
Yeah, it depends on what it's contractual.
I
Yeah,
know.
I know New London was you have a year if you don't commit the same offense,
It comes out.
It comes out
Yeah.
of your record.
Right.
So it.
So
But they never forget if you're back at the table again.
Oh, exactly.
Even though it's gone,
Oh,
they
yeah.
never forget.
But Scott Davis was right. We have to start looking at this town as a business.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're not doing that.
no, I think it's a little better in some instances, but we have a long way to go. Definitely have a long way to go. Mhm.
You know,
It's money in, money out.
let's
It's a
stop
business. I don't
nickel
care
and
how you look at
diming
it.
every little goddamn issue
Mhm.
and just move forward.
Well, and that I feel like the nickel and diming is done on the insignificant issues, and then the major issues,
They
it's
just
like,
plumb-
eh.
No, you're right.
That's what it seems like.
So when you walked in, we were talking about the ordinances and
Yeah, I was
what was
trying to listen
done,
to it while I was driving.
and then we were talking about.
So,
Yeah, we saw
Oh, okay.
you.
Then we started talking about some people had issues with not going through the ordinance committee, and we were talking about
Oh, yeah.
I started talking about when Rich first contacted me about it, and then I informed Rich, and then Rich sent an email to Tina talking about, hey, please have this request form filled out and go through the process.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, nothing.
Yeah.
It went quiet.
Yep.
And then back in April, they started talking about it. And then I sent an email a month ago, say, hey, if you're drafting something, could we at least see the drafts and provide some comments or feedback and work together?
Mhm.
Right, is what we're supposed to do. Work together.
Yep.
And that didn't happen. and they have the right to do that according to the code.
Mhm.
You know, we talked about that at the meeting. And, but it, you know, and it passed, it's behind us, but that doesn't mean it can't be changed in the future, you know, clarified or whatever if they run into problems.
Yeah, because it's an ordinance now, right?
It's an
Right.
ordinance,
So it
right?
can always be, it can be, yeah. it
So
can be changed
15
in the
days
future
from
if needed.
Tuesday, it'll go into effect.
So we got
When was the
about
last
13.
time you heard ordinance mentioned in this town? It's all new over the past year and a half.
Mhm.
You never heard ordinance 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Because he's got a big
Yep.
mouth.
Well, you're welcome. Yeah.
Well, actually, first time I heard about it was a short-term rental.
Yeah.
That was it.
That was the first
Yeah.
time I started hearing about it with that debacle. And then, you know, after the election and stuff, you know, there was an opening, and I said, I'll go in the ordinance. Stupid me, but anyway.
I
But
think
yeah, so
I
it's
think the ordinance committee is important though, because like I mentioned in the meeting when I got yelled at,
You didn't get yelled
I'm
at.
just kidding. Or offended people.
You were,
No,
you were yeah. People were taking offense
I
and
took
resenting
offense.
the things you were saying.
Took
Well,
offense to that comment.
It's
But
unfortunate. That's
it's
the way it
important
is.
that you use the committees you have because all those questions, like I said, would have been spitballed in the committee level
Yep.
and then put back and then sent back to the Board of Selectmen and the town meeting to be voted
Well,
on.
they ran it through the lawyer.
Well, yeah, like we said, the same
Town
lawyer,
lawyer.
that messed everything up the past years. So, I mean, it's
Well, he's the one who also apparently approved a letter for the certain individual that caused a lot of heartache for
Right.
like the last year,
it's
right?
cost the town a lot of money.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's he's a
And
lawyer.
then
He
come to
wants be
find
paid.
out,
Right.
when we looked into it and Tina's group looked into it, it was she doesn't work for the town. She
Right.
works for the Secretary of State.
Mhm.
So you really can't do anything. If you have any problems, you call the Secretary of State and then they'll deal with it.
And I understand. I mean, obviously, the lawyer is important, and you need legal advice for things. But that doesn't. It's like a doctor. You can still question them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, you can still ask
Oh, yeah.
questions. You can still, second guess them. That's
Lawyers make
okay.
mistakes too.
I work with lawyers and doctors every day, and I can tell you right now, we question a lot. I'm questioning one right now. You know, I mean, you
should
have
be paying
to.
attention, not messaging.
I'm multitasking.
If she could, she'd have 4 screens set up right here with 6 different
But it's
spreadsheets.
like we said in the ordinance meeting when someone brought up, or I think it was Dana. She's like, "Well, the lawyer says," this." We're like, the committee doesn't agree. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
we don't agree.
Mm-mm. And
You
here's
don't
why.
have to agree with
Right.
them.
No.
And here's why. And there may be information that maybe the lawyer
Doesn't-
missed or doesn't know, or there may be details that would change the lawyer's opinion.
Well, I asked
or,
about
mean, there's a lot
One
that
statute
the
to
lawyer hadn't
Rich,
even looked
and they
at.
hadn't even looked at it.
Yep.
Mm-mm.
That was part of the discussion. So
And they assumed that the lawyer had looked at it, but there's no way to know.
Yep.
Well, did he? I don't know. Maybe he did.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
that's the kind of stuff where you have
Well,
these
they met with
committees.
the lawyer 3 times. You were made aware of that, right?
Yeah.
So we're not going for a 4th.
But I'm thinking, if you can meet with the lawyer 3 times, why can't you meet with the ordinance committee?
Once, or at least once, right?
Or just send
Check
us the
that box,
drafts.
That's
They
all.
didn't have to, but it would have been occurred.
So just
and there were a lot of the discussion. I mean, someone had said, that people brought up a lot of good points tonight,
Mhm.
and made, people think about, we
Especially
hadn't
one of
really
the people
thought about
was
that.
affected by
Yeah.
that
Right.
ordinance,
And it's
right?
like, well, maybe, when you have a bigger group and you get some more ideas flowing and concerns, and I mean, you end up usually with a better end product when you
Mhm.
have more heads involved, because people have different perspectives, different biases, different experiences, and you end up with a better end product.
Right.
this is not my way or the highway. This is a town. You're supposed to work together and work as a team and get things done.
Yeah.
But you
And
know what
listen
I
to the
noticed
other
too?
people's
Out of the
perspectives.
3 that was sitting at that front table, only 2 of them had issues. The other one, not so much. I think was taking it all in and just kind of
Yeah,
listening
she was
to it,
sitting
thinking
back.
about it.
Yeah.
She was
The
just
other
sitting
two-
back and
No way. No.
taking it
Sorry.
all in
You
and
should be
all
getting
that.
upset
Yeah.
sitting up there. You should be taking notes and
Yeah.
making a product better for everybody you're
Good
representing.
point.
Yeah.
Good point. Good
Right.
point.
And
Yeah.
I think what would have been nice too is having that public hearing or town meeting or whatever without the vote at the end, letting it all process maybe for a week, and then having a vote at another town meeting the following week or something
Yeah.
like
Well,
that.
when the
I don't
tax
know if you have
collector-
to.
They'd have to
I
vote
thought
not
for
to
sure
vote.
when the
Oh.
tax collector said, because she was part of the authoring of the
Ordinance.
ordinances, and she said, well, I thought it was pretty straightforward, but all these other comments
But-
made tonight,
but-
I think maybe we need to relook at some of this. And I thought for sure,
That raised
and
a red flag.
I applaud her for that because, she was concerned. She wanted to make sure
Right.
things were going to be right.
Sure.
Because we weren't against it. Nobody was
I
against
didn't hear
what they wanted to
anybody
do.
say
No.
that they did not want
Right.
it switched to an
They
appointment.
just wanted to make
Nobody
sure it
said
was
that.
right.
It was
And-
just
and
the
wasn't a-
language.
It was just a couple of things. It wasn't even a lot. You could have re-voted on it in a couple of weeks when you changed that
Mhm.
language. It didn't
Right.
have to be.
That's all it was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not like,
Wasn't the policy.
and this was really
Right,
just to address the town clerk issue right now because she's retiring in November.
So it's January.
No, November.
Tried to talk her into January. What year though? There you go.
My question though is, so now when this goes into effect in, I guess, 13 days now or whatever, so there obviously is like a transition period where it goes from elected to the appointed. So what does that transition period look like?
Probably a term.
Has that been discussed? Is
Term,
that on paper anywhere?
There's
or
no,
has that been written,
as far as I
or-
remember, there was no term. And-
There was no definition of time.
So in 13 days, it just goes from
Well,
one day they're elected to the next day
far
they're
as-
appointed? I don't
far
think.
as
I
don't
think they stay
can do
elected
that.
until the
End of
next
the term.
end of the term,
End of the
which would
election.
be
That's why I meant by term.
2025,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
And then they're basically appointed at 2025.
Because the
So-
town people elected them to that position
Right.
for that term.
So then
Right.
what happens in
Sure.
November
Yeah.
when the current town clerk retires and now we don't have a town clerk, an
appointed.
elected town clerk? It's not appointed because it doesn't go into
It's
effect till
still an elected
2025.
I bet it's-
I believe
So how does that?
they'll be able
How's that
to,
gonna
I
work?
think when the statute said they could appoint
Right.
somebody like they do
As an
anybody else in
interim?
other committees, stuff like that, to fill that spot till 2025.
Okay,
So
as an
it's appointed
interim.
still.
And
Okay.
and then they'll be appointed if that same person wants the job or not, or is doing a good
Which
job,
is an
can be
interesting
appointed.
thing. Like I was talking to her after the meeting saying, I don't, to place in there not in effect till 2025 is very specific.
Well, I think that's because that's when the term ends. That's when the next elections would have come back
Right.
around.
Well,
Is
then
2025.
I was questioning on whether the assistant at that point now, she becomes the interim clerk.
They could appoint her that.
They,
They
well,
could.
they would have to either find someone that can do the job, that knows the job, or not have anybody in there at all. So I think it's better to move her up. But, and then
If she wants
can, now that
That's the other.
position opens up, I don't think it's required to be a town resident anymore.
Right.
So
Probably,
she can
probably
be
at that
hired
point,
as a-
probably not. Yeah.
So-
she can be hired as the full.
This is part of the
clerk.
language thing, right?
Yeah.
So she's still elected until 2025. But that language still says she has to be a Griswold resident, or he or she has to be a Griswold resident,
To
right?
be the town clerk.
Right,
If
Uh,
elected,
as elected.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but the new town clerk won't be elected.
right. They're appointed, so they don't
In
have to be a Griswold
2025.
resident.
So,
I think you're wrong. I think what they're going to do is they're going to make her the town clerk as a temporary
Right.
position, and then they're going to go out and they're going to look for a clerk.
Or
Like a
unless,
hire.
That's possible.
unless she's interested.
Well, and
They're
I
doing
think,
that in Waterbury right
right,
now.
well, and I
Well-
think that's part of it. So I think the reason they wanted, I think one of the reasons they wanted to open it up was because it increases the pool of candidates, right?
Mhm.
So that they're not just limited to Griswold residents.
Qualified.
So,
as a resident.
right, you know.
well,
so,
that was
yeah.
one. The other one, they didn't want to have an election, and then you had somebody who's qualified, got all the certifications, stuff like that, and then somebody gets elected that has none of that,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And now where are you going to be as a town? And
Yeah.
that was part of the business decision that Scott was
For
talking
the amount
about.
of money they're being paid, I don't think you're going to get I'd be challenged to see if there's anybody that pays as low as the towns around here.
I never did any research on salaries or
Yeah.
whatever
That would
for
be
town
interesting to
clerks or
see.
tax collectors and stuff like that. But yeah, so and then you got to talk about benefits and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And insurances and all that stuff. So could it cost the town some more money? Yes, but is it going to be a lot? Really
How
not.
much more is it going to cost us?
We'd have to see. Usually you'd have to do some kind of study,
Yeah.
labor study to find
Yeah.
out.
Well, the
But
few people in the top tier of government in town got pretty significant raises. Why not another one, right?
Yeah.
Especially one that
Well,
Deserves it.
so, I mean, and I think that we need to look at that as well. I mean, there may be other positions in town that also need raises,
Sure.
you know, and I think it's kind of a domino effect, you know, well, if
the
this
people
one,
that got
if these are
raises
getting
deserve the
raises,
raises
right,
based on
why-
area towns,
right.
It makes you think other ones.
Right, exactly, exactly. So, and then that's where it comes into, you know, all the taxes and, you know,
Yep.
But I would think the existing town clerk, being in there as long as she's been, is pretty much on the high end of her pay grade.
Probably.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe,
Yeah.
Uh,
30
I have no
something years,
idea.
right?
That's
But I
usually the
don't-
way it is. You're on your high end to get pay grade.
but if the
She
pay
should
grade
be.
if the pay grade is pretty crappy, I mean, what,
Well,
Right.
you know, what,
But she should be on the top level.
I would
of her
think
grade.
so. Yeah,
Should
Of
be.
the Griswold pay grade.
right, exactly. That's what I
Right.
mean. Yeah.
well,
But if
whatever it
the,
is.
Yep. Yeah.
like, we've done a lot of labor studies and found that they're really not paid to the standard that they should be.
Except for one person. I
Yeah.
said that the other day.
Some
Except for
people
one
are
person.
paid a lot more money than.
There's
Well,
one person that's
Small
paid
town,
at
you're not
or
gonna
above
get-
the
you're not gonna
average.
get the same money as it would in Hartford.
Right.
No,
Oh,
no, we're
definitely.
talking labor studies. They look at surrounding towns that are are comparative.
Yeah.
So you're not looking at, actually Hartford should be less because they're more deprived. But you look at Lisbon, Sterling,
Plainfield.
Plainfield, Voluntown, towns
Preston,
like that,
yeah.
the comparative
Yeah.
and see what they make.
I think Plainfield can afford to pay more. I don't know about Voluntown and Sterling.
Yeah,
So I
they're
don't
a
know how they
little-
are financially.
But you took them to see they'd be on the bottom and then those
Yeah,
other
right.
towns
You
would be
get a
on
high
the
and a
top.
low.
Yeah.
I get it.
So you want to look at those and compare them, but
But I think they found, you know, when they were looking for the assessor, obviously they were, you know, they
They
had trouble
struggled.
finding
Yeah.
it. That was a challenge, and they had to increase the pay. You know, and I mean,
And
I
we still
think we're
got a
gonna
guy in the
find
'70s
that-
doing it.
And still,
Right.
And he's not
still
gonna be
barely
around
get
long.
anybody at that.
Right.
So
Yep.
yeah.
and a lot of these jobs, people are comfortable where they are
Yep.
because they've been there for a while. They know the game.
Mhm.
There's game everywhere you go.
Yeah, yeah,
So you're gonna have to make them want to come.
which is going to be money
Yeah.
or benefits or both.
Or new.
Or brand new, somebody right out of, you know, high school or something
Yeah.
that doesn't want to go to college but wants to do something, you know, that
Mhm.
type of person. But again, it's going to take time.
Yeah, but
to
for
get
all
them
these
up to speed.
salaries, you're looking at, looking for somebody's retired for something, got a pension from somewhere else, and then they're going to make 70 grand extra just to do,
Yep.
or 60 grand or whatever it is,
Probably
right? That
50,
on top
I
of
don't
their
know.
pension, they're
Yeah,
comfortable.
right.
But I think that's where they're used to in this town. And that's the problem. They need to grow. The
Mhm.
town is growing. You're bringing in lower, younger demographic, and you're going to have to raise the standards. And these jobs before were capable of being part-time, 20 hours a month.
Yeah.
This and that. Now it's no. You need to have someone in that position that's full-time to handle the work and meet the requirements now
Yep.
that are there. So that's the problem you're running into. So the town has to start to look at it and say, we need to change. We need to grow. We need to come up to the standards.
We need
of
to look
today.
at our neighbors, what they're doing
Yeah.
and what we're not doing.
And I have to say, I think over the last few years, I think we're going in that direction, but it's just
Slow and it's
slow.
hard.
It's slow. It's slow and it's frustrating,
It
and I'm
is.
sure it's frustrating for them as
People
well.
are fighting
But
it from the money side.
of course, you know, you're going to have people with different views that don't want it to grow. No, I want it to stay this way.
Which-
They think, you know, developing 164 is going to turn us into a, you know,
New York City,
right.
yeah.
And it's, you know, so
And you need both
I think we're
sides.
heading in the right
you need
direction.
both sides of the argument. You need the money argument.
Right.
Yes, we got to stay fiscally responsible.
Mhm.
You have to, otherwise you're going to be in the hole. You need to have the people that want to keep the look of the town,
Mhm.
but you have to also have the people and not being chased with pitchforks and fires and stuff
Yeah.
and saying we need to grow and learn. We need
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
expand.
Well,
But
people complain about the taxes, but things are going, prices are rising.
how many people
salaries are
realize they're
rising.
paying more taxes right now?
I would
Right.
like to know what the average cost of what somebody paid when their taxes went up.
That's
As a
what,
result
how
of
many
this.
people realize
Like
it?
the average increase, you mean? Is that
No.
what you're asking?
Actually, I paid less money.
Did
So
you?
my
For your
my
cars?
went up,
That's
my
because he's got a
cars
fleet
went
of cars,
down.
all that
I
dropped.
know.
I ended up with a net increase of $17.
I ended up with a negative 75.
Oh,
A month?
We
You're
haven't
helping.
even opened ours yet.
Yeah.
Because
the
we
car
haven't even
prices-
opened. I'm like,
the
it
cars
is what
went
it
down.
is.
Yeah, cars went down.
So-
Cars went down like
Because-
195.
That's because of the new state statute.
We're doing about $9 more a month.
That's because they just changed the state statute.
Well, the
They
state
changed the way
statute,
they're
they
assessed.
tried to
Yeah.
change the state statute, but that didn't go into effect for this tax year.
My vehicle taxes are
Goes
still
in for the
next
$2,000.
one?
So
Was
No,
it?
we didn't get that. They screwed up.
No way.
Remember they screwed up? They had to go back?
I don't
No,
remember.
no,
I do not
Yeah,
remember.
that's why they called the session back again. They screwed up on
Oh, for the
Remember?
special. I don't remember,
No,
but I
no.
believe it.
I gave up live watching.
that. They had a
Yeah.
special session. They had to all go back.
I couldn't
They
stand it
screwed
anymore.
up the law.
Oh my god.
No way.
Yeah, we haven't. We got-
Legislature screw up.
we got our bills and they're still,
Still sitting on the counter.
still sitting on the counter in
Well,
the
you got 2
pile.
more weeks.
Like,
Well, I don't have to
nah.
register my car for another.
I just go. Oh my, yeah, I just pay it online. I'll pay it. But it's just I mean, it is what it is. We don't even open them. Like whatever. We'll just you gotta pay them. You gotta pay them whether you're
Keep
opening
talking
them or
about
not,
Lashes
you know?
Luxury Mailings Millions and Wozlik's Wealth. You know, they don't even worry about their bills. They
Oh,
don't
I
open
didn't say
them
we weren't
up. You
worried.
know, it
I
is
just
what
said
it
it
is.
is what it is. I mean, you got to pay them whether you open it or not.
I don't worry about it until I got to register my car. And they say you can't register. it.
Yeah,
Right.
and then you need the stamp on your registration
There's
form.
an old saying, one free tax to
That's
death,
it.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as you pay your taxes, you should be re-registered automatically. There you go. I like
Right,
that
wouldn't
one.
be
Yeah,
nice?
yeah.
I mean, they would have to communicate.
States that don't
Yeah.
charge that. How about that? Huh?
Mm,
How does that work?
yeah.
To get you the other side.
No, they don't. The houses, I'm telling you, I know where my daughter lives, and I'm telling you what, they live dirt cheap down there.
They got to be
Wouldn't-
making the money. from
Wouldn't you
somewhere, though.
love?
Well,
I
they're
would
not.
love
You're
to
right.
see
But-
how.
But how do
How
the
that
towns?
works.
They got highway departments.
Yeah.
They got a highway department down there that's
Ugh.
4 times the size of what we got here in a little town in West Virginia.
Really?
They pay higher income taxes or higher.
I know they're
Maybe state
about
income
this
taxes.
year will be the last year that there'll be state tax on Social Security. Then that goes away.
Wow.
House taxes. I mean, I've looked at houses down there that are in the $300,000 to $400,000 range, and you get taxes on houses that $600-700 a year.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
not kidding
Hmm.
you. Mine's 4,000.
Holy
They
crap.
have a higher percentage of sales tax.
Yeah, they pay their car taxes once a year when they do their registration.
Oh,
And my daughter's
Makes
got
sense.
between her husband and the two girls that drive, there's 4 vehicles, and it's $100 and something bucks.
oh my God.
I mean, how are they doing? How are they surviving?
It's got to be sales
Listen,
tax.
Lewis,
There's-
Lewis
yeah,
lives a
where are
halfway
they
town
getting their
in West
money from?
Virginia.
No, they're not the only state that's
How
got.
they survive is because they
Oh,
have
that-
legislatures that don't spend money up the yin yang.
Oh my god.
I guess
Go to
so.
Hartford, look at the money they're spending.
And throw mandates on towns that they can't afford.
Where's that?
you
West
know.
Virginia?
Yeah.
Or West Virginia?
So you know
Look at
that's a
it.
lot of
No, I need the ocean.
you
I
know
don't wanna be
even
landlocked.
even with the an individual asked me to get information from the Board of Ed chair about how many mandates are sent at the school and how much it's costing
Oh,
us.
God, the mandates are
So
ridiculous.
she's going to be getting that. But the mandates, you think the town mandates are bad.
Look at the early voting
School mandates.
Oh my
That costs
God.
us, right?
That I think they added
50,000?
50,000 onto that line
$50,000.
item for the early voting
Yeah.
for the tax.
Yeah, but they
on
gave us
this year's budget.
$10,000.
Oh, yeah, the state mandates are
Yeah, that was
ridiculous.
what
The
the last
Be
year-
unfunded.
thankful you're not part of the Waterbury Board of Education.
What's going on there?
They're on their 5th referendum vote,
Oh my God! For
and
their
they're fired.
for their
the
budget?
superintendent
Oh, yeah.
is
Yeah, but
still
you
on.
Really?
look
Really?
even closer to home, Colchester. Was it last year? I think I was talking to the chief there. Their whole town budget, fiscal budget, went to 5 to 7 referendums, so they didn't have a budget.
You got a mess in Groton too.
Wow.
There's like $1.5 million missing in the school
Yeah,
budget.
I saw that.
Ooh.
So and they don't know where this superintendent is. I don't know. Last I heard. So there's
Wow.
some.
They're
My
missing
wife
$1
was
million
listening to
dollars?
the
Yeah,
board
it was
of
overnight.
ed meeting down in Groton the other night, I think, and I didn't really listen to much of it, but
And they don't know where the superintendent is?
yeah,
They Hoffman?
last I heard. I don't know. He didn't show up.
He's in
He didn't
the-
show up to report on it.
Any
I do
new
know this for a
football fields
fact.
being built?
The
Yeah.
board of ed chair, had to show up in front of the board of
That's
finance, I think,
interesting.
to
Oh
talk
my
about
God.
How
that.
would he? I'm not saying he did or she or whatever. I don't know.
Yep.
How would they walk away with it?
I don't know, but
Like, they
there's
have to write themselves a check or something. That's what I don't know.
there's a lot of
Yeah, it's not like they just go take
So-
cash out of a drawer.
Right.
as bad as you think we may have it here.
Oh, yeah.
We do
The
not.
grass is not always greener.
That's right. I will tell you that the
Big cities, big problems.
right.
Yeah.
People
Mhm.
complain about the school budget and stuff like that, but that's why we want to see that number what it is for mandates, because part of that number is coming from the state.
Look
And
at-
they
look at
cannot do
Bridgeport.
anything
How can
about
you
it.
Have a mayor that's been to jail and come
I
back and
know.
be the mayor again, right?
Because he did well.
Because
Yeah.
they voted him in.
He did
Yep.
well. They saw the change.
Yeah.
But one thing I would caution people, like you were saying, is we don't have it bad here, but it will get bad if they don't continue to try and
Control
improve
it.
stuff.
Yep.
You gotta do
And you
something.
have to have an income versus
Yeah.
a debt.
The other problem is you can't bring in like Heritage River. Let's just say that generates $50,000 a year in tax money, $50 million, whatever it is. but you can't take that money and go spend above and beyond that. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
you
That's
gotta,
gonna help.
Mm.
you know, it's found money. I get that, but you can't.
Yeah, you can't go on a little spree with it.
No, of
Yeah,
course not.
I know
No,
it's
because
got to be.
You gotta take. You still gotta.
You got
keep
any
going
comments,
forward.
Rich?
Mhm.
Got any comments?
No,
No.
just that one I read.
Yeah, that's all. I got.
But with what you're saying is we're gonna have that extra income, but there's gonna be also expenses on the other side. 'Cause
Yeah.
You're gonna have to upkeep the area. You're gonna have public safety wise. You're gonna be using more fuel, using more resources to.
Oh yeah, how many
Help
times
that
is
area.
EMS gonna be going there?
Right.
Right.
I mean, again, right now
Yeah.
EMS is free.
Yeah.
However,
Guess I charge.
that party is gonna stop in 32.
2032 is when that
That part is
contract
over.
ends.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why wait so long?
Why? What's happening in
That's-
2032?
because the contract that they're here for free expires.
Oh,
The ambulance.
Hartford.
Oh, the ambulance service?
Ambulance service. It
Eight
was.
more years. Yeah, that's about right.
Yep.
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 So
It
that
was
party's over in
2032.
8 years.
'Cause I questioned that when Dana was still.
So you're
Yeah.
looking at a
I
million,
thought that was
maybe
coming up. I thought it was only a 10-year agreement.
Yeah.
they extended
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it years ago. No one knew it. I have a
Yeah,
copy
it
of
was,
it.
it was real quiet.
Yeah.
Right.
The you're looking up to $1 million possibly to have an ambulance stay
I
here.
hope,
Up to, give or take. I don't know what the
I think
good
the
rate on it,
ones-
but
last I knew, the ones in Norwich, I think, was well over $400,000
Yeah.
to be in Norwich to serve Norwich. Yeah.
it's because they have their headquarters there, right?
Well,
that's
that
why
too.
it's so low. I'm saying. Hey,
No, so probably.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They don't have a building.
Because some
up there
towns
right
are paying an astronomical amount of money to have that coverage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So someone brought up, well, why not have a Griswold ambulance again?
Ooh,
Say, 'cause
you
wanna
don't
have
want
people
that.
working
A
there?
lot of money.
You don't want that.
You're right.
You want to have people working there? You ain't gonna have people working there, Griswold ambulance. That's why it got shut down to begin with.
Exactly.
And an ambulance, I mean, they're usually not profitable businesses.
No, you're in the red.
You know, so
But you know what? What they were in the red for, I went to the meetings, wasn't near as bad as what it's going to turn into when the
Mhm.
agreement ends.
right. Oh
You know,
yeah.
Bill Spear used to come to the meetings. He was looking for 50,000, 40,000, 30. I mean, people were bitching about that.
hmm
Today, you kidding me? They gladly pay that if they find out what it's going to cost you to keep Hartford in town.
hmm
So Rachel Taylor here says EMS is free. It cost me $900 to take an ambulance ride. The problem is the ambulance is not being paid for if they have the town house them here. It's free right now.
So yeah.
Your insurance pays for your transport. That's how they cover the expenses for the
The
ambulance.
employees.
So-
So the town doesn't pay to have coverage here. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Right. The town doesn't pay for the ambulance to
To
sit
sit
here
here.
in the building.
Which
So
half the
there's-
time it's not here anymore.
Hmm.
It's doing
they're
mutual
all
aid.
over the place. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so the ambulance that we have now, for people that don't know, American ambulance or Hartford Healthcare ambulance now, sits in Jewett City. It has a building. They sit here.
Which is
Essentially-
donated by the town.
Right. Yep. That they don't pay for. So they sit here, have a crew here 24/7 essentially, and they're
The
able
cars
to.
are here.
Yeah, and they're able to. They stay here, and the town doesn't have to pay for that service.
Not
but-
yet.
Which
Right.
most towns have to pay
Right.
for that.
Oh,
So
yeah, it's
until-
huge money.
Until 2032, when that runs out, then who knows what happens at that point. But so right, but when you call 911, you go by ambulance. Obviously, you're still paying. You're
For
as a
that service.
patient, you're
You're
paying
paying
for their service
their
to bring you to
service.
the hospital.
That's right.
But the town doesn't have to pay right now for
It's
them
a quicker
to sit
response, basically.
Yeah.
So you're paying for a quicker coverage.
Yeah.
PSF.
Mhm.
here. Otherwise, they'd be coming from
But
Norwich.
the problem is
Yeah, but
other towns can't cover their ambulance services. So
ours
our
goes out.
ambulance goes to other towns to cover their ambulance for backup.
Because we're not paying to keep them in
Right.
town.
And now they're supposed to backfill, but they say they're so busy they can't backfill. And now the fire department has to respond to take care of the patient until the
Until the
ambulance
ambulance
gets
Well, you
there.
guys respond anyway, and
On
usually
some
they're
calls.
first.
Some calls.
Yeah.
Yep.
What'd you call it?
Certain-
Advanced
certain.
life support? Like
And in
heart
my short
attacks,
time in
chest-
your department, I've seen that you've had to sit there and wait for an ambulance to show up.
40 minutes sometimes.
Mhm.
Now, does the fire department, either one of them have an ambulance?
No.
Mm-mm.
They don't.
We're what's called a first responder.
Yeah.
And that means that we go with the same level of care, but not transport capable.
Mhm.
So we can go like,
Well, you have a medic?
no, we have, we're all
EMTs.
BLS, yeah,
EMTs.
or EMRs.
Yeah.
So we can give the aspirin, we can
Yeah.
give some medication.
Mhm.
We can't put an IV in.
Right.
We can't do advanced airways, which we used to be able to, but suddenly we became stupid in Connecticut,
Yep.
couldn't do it anymore. And then we could do some stuff like that.
But they're going to let police do blood
Blue
draws.
light, yeah.
for
Right.
DUIs.
Yeah.
Now you see where
Good
Connecticut
luck
goes
with
with
that.
all this stuff,
Good
right?
luck with that.
That's Connecticut.
Yep.
So
Training the cops.
like
Training
for
the
a long
cops, yeah,
time, as a
phlebotomists.
first aid person, I could teach you how to use an epinephrine injector.
Yeah.
Emergency medical responders, EMR, which is just below an EMT, and the
Mhm.
fire department was not allowed to give that until a couple months ago.
even though it's.
Even though first aid
Yeah.
people can give it at home.
They taught us when I was at Millstone. They taught us it was like every 2 years we had to get recertified for CPR, and they taught us how to use
First aid,
epinephrine
yeah.
and that kind of stuff.
They didn't teach us epinephrine. We had the
Yep.
CPR and all that, and basic first aid. Every year you had to.
We had a couple cases at Millstone where a couple people during the course of the years got stung by bees or
We
something
had
like
one
that,
guy, but he
right?
carried his own
Right.
pen.
Mhm.
Right.
That's good.
Yep. And
Yeah.
so we had to, go to the nurse's station. They'd had epinephrine pens and,
Yeah, we-
poke them in the
as a
leg.
EMR going in a fire truck, if we
Yeah.
were at an EMR level, you were not allowed to use that epinephrine drug. The person had to sit there.
But, even
Suffer?
even after you hit yourself with the epi, though, you're supposed to go to the hospital.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
definitely.
Supposed to, but they still refuse half the time. Yeah.
Yes, they can.
It's like
And
Narcan.
I had
You Narcan
I had an
is-
issue one time, and they said, "Do you want to get an ambulance, or you want somebody to take you to the hospital?" I said, "Well, somebody take me to the hospital."
Yeah, the guy I worked with, he always went. He
Right.
would do
Smart,
himself
'cause
with the epi, and then he
They
would
last
go.
only about 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Then he would go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Comes
Yeah,
back.
'cause
to
you're-
you're in
yeah.
trouble.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't realize all this stuff. So you're going to have that income from Heritage River. However, you're building a elderly complex there.
Yep.
Where in Waterford, when I dispatch, sometimes we're sending an ambulance at least 5 times a shift.
Yeah.
to that
A
complex.
shift, not a day, a
shift.
shift. Yeah.
So it's going to be more of a strain on EMS services in the town,
That's been mentioned.
So.
and it's not like we're getting a bunch of volunteers lined outside the door,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we're doing okay now.
We're doing great right now.
You
Well,
know?
and that
But-
would be Griswold's district, right?
Yes, it would be Griswold's district.
So Joe
Right.
City's
So
on a
not
roll.
right. Yeah, I mean, Jewett City has a lot of new EMTs now.
Yeah. We have an
Um,
ambulance service out of town actually looking at having Jewish city members join the work, do work on their ambulance.
mhm.
So
Because people can't get the volunteers
Lisbon
because
pays what 100, 150 to ride the bus down there. I know a guy that does it. They get paid.
per call, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then
So-
they also have a standby.
Just to get people.
They
down.
pay you to stand by.
we've got at least 2 people listening to the show. We
I
got,
got 6 on here.
I got Rachel.
Depends on which platform.
Said,
you're
so your EMS is free, and then she says, she said, "Oh, okay. Ambulances here stay at most firehouses, but they are county
It's the
units."
same
Yeah,
idea.
similar. So here in Connecticut, I know a lot of other states are county. Like you always
Yeah.
hear about, oh, this county, that county. It's not like that in Connecticut. We do have counties, but nothing is really done by
Not
county.
by county, right?
Mm.
It's usually just done by town. And then you have the volunteer services, like what we're talking about here, but then you have the paid services. So like nearby in Norwich, for example, they have volunteer and paid, and the main paid firehouse,
City.
the city, right? They have the ambulance service like across the street, essentially.
Yeah,
But-
they can walk to it.
right.
Yeah.
You know, so it's.
Hmm.
I don't know if any. I think American just does all the ambulances in Norwich.
It's
right?
their PSA, yeah.
But like you go to Montville, they have some ambulances in the firehouses.
They have 4 departments,
Mm.
total of 6 to 8 ambulances in the town of Montville.
In the firehouses.
And well, they own them.
Right.
The fire departments own the ambulance,
Yeah, not the city.
which is
or the
different
town.
than which is different than a lot of other places.
Yeah.
So it depends on where you are.
Yeah.
But they're considered different corporations in the same department. So that way the money's not like being commingled together. 'Cause
How
you
many
can't-
calls have we had this so far, just for Jewett City Fire
Jewish
Department this
City, I
year?
think we're up to 400 almost.
I thought it was over that.
I'm
I think
guessing.
I think when I did the book the last time, we were already in the 400s.
So when for clarification for people, when I joined Jewett City 7 years ago, maybe, we were doing over 800, 900 calls a year. We went to every single call. Boo-boo call, my toe hurts.
Have a
runny
toothache.
nose.
Yeah, my
yeah.
Johnny hurts, my butt's
Stop
bleeding.
it.
It's
Jesus.
but
I've
now,
fallen and I can't get
falling,
up.
I can't get
Oh
up.
boy.
So
Oh my God.
COVID hit and actually helped in one aspect, and that was we stopped going to calls we didn't need to.
The
Yep.
BS calls.
Yeah, exactly.
So only the ambulance went.
Okay.
But now we're going to ALS calls, which means you're having chest pain, difficulty breathing. We run a better chance of dying,
Overdoses.
overdosing, the usual commingled stuff. But we also go to the ambulances on a delayed response, which means they're coming from another town. It's called an AA2. It means we're waiting for the ambulance, where you're providing the primary care as the fire department.
All right.
With that still in mind, we're doing 25 to 30 more calls than last year already.
Mhm. Yeah, you're trending on that.
We're
yeah.
going up. We're keeping stats on it.
Yeah, you get the reports every month at the public health and safety.
Yeah.
numbers.
So
Every month it's
we're
up.
Yeah,
He compares them to last year.
Yeah.
fires are up too.
Well, true.
Really, fires
Yeah.
are up.
Accidents. Seems like there's been a lot
Car
of accidents
accidents are
too
up.
lately.
Yeah,
People are driving like
well, people are.
assholes.
Yeah, there's a lot
Yeah.
of people are driving like
People on Facebook complaining
idiots.
about that everywhere in
Yeah.
town.
so.
So
People are going like 85, 90 down 395. Like
people need to
Nobody's
understand
business.
right now in the town of Griswold, your fire and EMS services are provided by 100% volunteer
Mhm.
from the fire department.
Yep.
You get transported by a paid service, but your fire department is 100% volunteer.
who pays for that service?
Hmm?
Who pays for? Does the patient pay for the ride?
Yes.
Yep.
Well,
If you
On the ambulance?
Or their
Depends.
insurance,
and it doesn't
Medicare.
cover, you get
it
a bill.
depends.
Medicare, whatever.
Medicare does not pay even
Enough.
close.
No,
They don't
really.
even pay up to 30 to 50% of the ambulance
Yeah.
cost.
Bill Sweeney used to
But
talk about that.
the patient is responsible for it in
Yeah.
one way or
Medicare, then you get
another.
into Medicaid and all that stuff, and he says they used
Yep.
to get less money. It's
It keeps
Okay.
going down. However, then they say, well, how come the ambulance services are closing? Because your morons at the state are not paying the full service.
Yeah.
So that means I should only have to pay 20% of my tax bill.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the thought process are going on.
And then
It's-
a
it's
friend of mine
crazy.
had a stroke. They took him to Bacchus, and then they transported him down to Yale. So his wife said, "Can I go with him?"
Mhm.
So sure, hop in. They billed her $450 to ride in
As
that
a
ambulance.
passenger?
Yep,
Oh,
And they- and they
I
billed
hadn't
you
thought
too?
of
with her
that.
husband
Oh,
on a gurney back
I
there to go down there for a
hadn't
stroke.
Never heard of that
Yes,
before.
they did.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
$450.
Was she able to? As what was the charge?
I don't know.
I would like not
But
the
it-
amount, but I'd
but-
love to know what that
What
billing,
description
the code
yeah,
was for
that
that.
they charged. She had to pay. it.
Interesting.
She
Like
had to pay it.
I
know
would
you-
have thought that.
I know you can charge per
Oh.
mile. So they
as a
must have said-
passenger.
No, they must have said we have a passenger, so we're
Yep.
charging that person per mile.
Jesus,
too.
when I got brought
That's crazy.
the last
Oh
time
my
I went to
god.
Bacchus when I had 2 years ago with the AFib thing, they didn't charge by the mile, but there was a fuel surcharge on the ambulance. And
Yep.
it was like $600.
Oh my
And I said,
god.
"What'd you do? Fuel up every ambulance and
Right.
bill it to
Yeah,
me?"
yeah.
I mean, you gotta be kidding me. $600? I
Yeah.
would have gave them a 50 because it didn't take that much to get to Bacchus Hospital.
Oh
Yeah.
my
And you know what they're
God.
doing with
I
it.
didn't have to pay it. My insurance paid
Yeah,
it, but it
yeah.
still was a fuel
That's-
surcharge.
They're
of like
taking the
$600.
losses on the other side and they're covering it with other.
Yeah.
no, yeah,
Yeah.
because there's people that don't
And
have to
nobody-
pay because they can't
nobody
afford to
questions
pay.
it.
They're on
Insurance-
some kind of
the insurance
assistance
is so
programs
expensive.
and things like that, and they can't
Well,
afford it. So the people that can't afford it, they bang you for it.
well, I know at Oakdale, when I used to help manage the ambulance there,
Yep.
we would get the bill in, or the statement rather, from the billing company, because it's a third-party billing company. It's not done by the fire department, the
Mhm.
EMS company.
Yep.
And they would give you a statement and they would say, well, this person didn't pay anything, their insurance didn't pay.
Yeah.
So if you could afford it and we knew it, we'd send it to collections.
Hmm.
And then if you couldn't, because we knew the people,
Yeah.
it was thrown out.
Thrown out.
It's a loss.
And guess
Yeah.
what? It gets absorbed somewhere else.
It's a loss.
Well,
It's
yeah.
the
Well-
company's in the red on it.
We're seeing that on the utility end with the electric companies, right? They got
Yeah.
this other
Public
fee,
benefits.
you know, that we're helping others that can't pay their electric bill,
It's always
right?
been
And we're
there. It's
getting
just
charged,
gonna be up for the
right?
next
And now
10
it's
months.
been added.
Yeah.
It's going up.
10 for
Well,
10
I
months.
personally think Pure is going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
It should be.
And here's the reason. They've already gone after Eversource. They're going after the one in New Haven.
Well, how did they approve this?
United
Now they're
Illuminating?
after Frontier.
UI, they're going
Okay,
after
so-
UI.
So
I am so ignorant with all this stuff. What is Pura?
Public Utility Regulatory
Authority.
Oh, okay.
And
the
it's
it's
run by
regulatory
some
authority.
woman who was appointed by Lamont, who's being a royal
Well,
witch.
So is
It's a
Pura
committee. It's a
is,
committee.
is it a state committee or a private?
Yes.
Well,
It's both, right?
Because the utilities are
Both, right?
regulated.
yeah.
Both, right?
So they're
Where-
regulated.
Pure, it's both
Jewett City's not
state
regulated.
and,
It's run under
people on the committee.
CMAQ.
Oh, so they
I
don't.
think so.
Mix,
I think
right?
so, yeah.
So do utility companies get to decide if they want to be under Pura or not?
No.
Like how do they?
Municipals,
They,
their rates are not regulated by Pura.
Okay.
But if Eversource or United Illuminating wants to get a rate increase, they have to go to
The
Pura.
water company. The water company too.
Right,
Yeah.
right, water,
Oh.
yeah, exactly.
Oh,
So
so all
But like
utilities
Norwich,
It's an
Jewett
oversight.
City, they don't have
They're
to go
private.
to Pura.
because they're municipal.
They're municipal.
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's an
And they're
oversight
supposed to
committee.
be, they're supposed to be
Interesting.
nonprofit, that's why.
Okay.
The other ones are for profit.
Right. Right. Okay.
So, you know, the
So
more
they have to
profit,
regulate
why do
it,
you
yeah,
think the
money,
CEOs
yeah.
are making millions every
Of
year?
course.
right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I just
got
wonder
it.
what Frontier is going to do now.
Yep.
They're going
It's-
to fight it because there are a lot of other companies around there are doing the same thing.
So what are they trying to fight? I don't
Something
understand.
to do with service.
Okay.
Some rule they have in place related to service. They're fining them $2.5 million
Oh my God.
because of service.
You know, who's going to pay for that?
Yeah, that'll just get passed
The
on to
people who buy
us.
their front
Yeah.
It's
here.
not coming out of the
Right.
CEO's
No,
bonuses.
no.
Yeah. So Rachel said, going back to the paramedic thing, it said they charged $90 a trip, $6 extra for oxygen, and $3.50 a mile of transporting to an out of county facility.
It's actually cheap.
It is.
Extra $6 for oxygen.
I think
Yeah,
Rachel's
because
in North
you
or
get
South
charged for
Carolina,
everything.
so it's a little cheaper
Wow.
down there.
Everything is itemized.
Yes.
That's why well, I shouldn't, won't say it.
Yeah.
But
Good catch.
we, everything you use.
He's learning.
Yeah, everything you use on that ambulance in the report
It's got to show up.
goes
Buy a
back to
Band-Aid is
being
probably
home.
$75.
Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's what I brought my kids to, like the Plainfield Bacchus up here, for whatever they had going on. Nick messed up his knee or whatever, and he's like, "Mom, he's texting me, Mom, they're trying to give me Advil." I'm like, "I have Advil at home. They're gonna charge her $75 for an Advil." I was like, "No." I was like, so he came home. He's like, "Mom, you'd be proud of me. I told him no medication. I'm not paying for that." And I'm like, "Okay, good job."
Well, hopefully they need the medication you refuse.
No. They were gonna try to give it. They're trying to give him Advil because it's an anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
We only need an
Like,
Advil.
we
don't
have
even
that
go
at
to the
home,
hospital.
right? Well, remember that night he thought he messed up his knee, he couldn't walk on it, and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My boo boo hurts.
Yeah, and he was like, "Oh, Mom, what do I? They're telling me they're going to give me a brace." I'm like,
No
"We'll go
boo boo
to Walgreens."
calls. Rich is against
Like, we'll
boo
go to
boo
Walgreens
calls,
and get a
okay?
brace. I don't want to be paying $500.
You
for a
laugh. I
brace.
worked with an EMT in another town who was being nameless. So will the department. It wasn't Oakdale, since I already mentioned them. It wasn't them.
Mhm.
Where I would have my partner, you go to the call and you go, "Why the hell did you bother calling us for this?"
Ooh, that's not good.
It's like
That's
you
what-
could have
you can't
driven
do
yourself to the hospital. Now you're wasting our ambulance and our time.
And I agree with that, but you don't say that
You
out
can't-
loud to a patient.
No, that
Well,
person
no.
didn't
You-
work
you
there
keep
much
that
longer.
in your
What
head.
if it's like the 10th time that month? Though,
Oh,
you
it
know?
happens.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me, it
And you got
happens.
them people.
It
You still can't say that.
You still,
I know.
I mean,
I know.
as a healthcare professional, you
Right.
take. I mean,
When I teach these classes, I try and tell them when if you have what's called the 1,000 call syndrome, and it's happened to me, I'll admit it,
Mhm.
where you go, "Oh, this person
Again.
again," and this last time you go, and people don't go because they're tired of going
That'll be the
there.
time they die.
That's the time that they're.
Yep.
That's right.
it's
And
happened
same thing
here in
happens
town.
with fire calls.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It can happen with fire calls, EMS calls, everything. Police.
Fire alarm, fire alarm, fire alarm,
Burglar
fire
alarm,
alarm, and
it's
then
happened.
all of a sudden,
We're dispatching where the cops are like, "Oh, the alarm's going off 5 times this week already."
Yep.
And this time they go and, Q, start a detective. We got a burglary.
mhm,
Yeah. Well, the
Yep.
house is burning.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not as sensitive
Yeah.
to the issue because you've gone there so many times.
Right.
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
Definitely.
called
Right.
1,000 call
Right.
syndrome because you
Yeah.
go 999 times that last one time you go.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's not even that. I mean, I think as EMS, you guys
Yep.
are exposed to so
Hey, we're up to
much.
3 people
that
watching
you-
us now.
You're exposed to so much that you do get desensitized. I mean,
No.
you're,
Right. So
like, I
Rachel,
mean, you see the worst of the worst, and then you get somebody who's like, "Oh, I cut
Hmm.
myself, or I have a head laceration." It's of course, to them, it's like, "Oh my god!"
Yep.
But for you, you've seen people with limbs missing,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Your
We-
head cut is going to be
You're
fine."
gonna live. You know?
Yeah, we try and teach them in the beginning, it's their worst day.
Yeah,
that's just a flesh
Yeah, not
wound.
yours,
Yeah, it's their worst day.
Yeah.
Don't compare it to your worst
You guys
day.
ever see
Yeah,
Monty
100%.
Python's Holy
Yeah,
Grail?
yeah.
You know, and that
Yeah.
thing? Yeah. So anyway, Rachel says, so clarify, those prices were back in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
And then she says she agrees with Rich on the boo-boo calls,
Mhm.
tying up services for
Mhm.
BS when they could be needed for serious stuff.
Absolutely. And it's
But like you
happened.
said, you really can't say anything
Can't
about that. You can think it, but you can't say anything out loud as a medical professional, as the Queen said. And then they got Victoria is just opening up here. So she's here. Frequent flyers happen everywhere. Headache, ass ache.
Ass-ache,
And broken nails.
Yeah. Yep, it does. It happens.
So-
And even I get frustrated. I mean, I'm not even going to the damn calls, but I'm like, really? Like, why? I
Mm.
mean, there have been instances where people call, the frequent flyer type of people.
Yep.
And that all can be documented
It
and
is.
can be eventually, if it gets bad enough, it can be, they can be arrested, right? Or charged with
If it's not a technical problem.
Right, but if
It's
they,
just standards.
what's the, like,
It's abuse of
misuse,
911.
abuse of 911.
Yeah.
But then someone else has to be not receiving the services they need in
Right.
order for that to qualify as a call. That's it.
Right, because you didn't put somebody else.
Right.
Right, yeah.
We also have a committee in town which does great work. I know Tina's on it. What's the Pride is on it.
Mhm.
Stuff like where we can refer the people to the committee for services
Oh,
to
that's
slow
cool.
down the need for our services. So they provided other services in place.
What's the name of the
Because of-
committee?
I forget. The Community Action
Oh,
Committee.
that's
or
the one I'm
something.
on.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know I was on that.
He's like, wait a minute, that sounds familiar.
I heard of that one before.
And I skipped out on it today.
Oh, is that Resilient Jewett City
No
or something
action
like
items
that?
today?
Resilient Jewett
So-
City?
What video are you not on?
I know,
There are
right?
no action items today?
I didn't have anything to talk about
There you go.
because we didn't have anything going
Had
on.
nothing.
Yeah.
Safety.
But
No.
and that's good to have because a lot of those frequent flyers are usually connected to some sort of psych
Service, yeah.
service that's
Mhm.
needed or some
Yeah.
kind of social service that's
Mhm.
needed. So it's good to have that.
Yeah. And it works.
Good.
It does work because there's some people that don't call as much.
Yeah, there is a lot of talk about that.
Yeah.
Nice.
If it works, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works. Yeah, it's actually one of the committees in town that can do the job. And
Mhm.
so it's good.
We got a lot of committees I think are doing a good job, and
Yeah.
now we got a new member on the EDC, and I got two of the EDC members here now. So
Oh,
there you
it's
go.
not a quorum, is
Yeah,
it?
that's-
Newbie.
and that's in like what the first meeting he's going to be at Wednesday.
This week.
Are you taking
Wednesday
your
night?
aspirin, or-
This week.
Going to make
not
some
canceled
changes.
Unless
Gonna
it
help
gets-
move
unless
us
it gets
forward.
canceled, You never know.
Well, I have to say along those lines, so I just came down 164 before here and they are digging, man. Looks like they're making progress. They're already past Petromax on the opposite
Mm.
side of Petromax, but they're down more.
Wow.
It's down to one
Yeah,
lane.
it
So
was
if you're
pretty
taking,
clean digging,
yeah,
so.
if you taking 164,
Great.
it's down to one lane, so it's alternating. So
So here's the
but
deal
it's
with
awesome
that,
to
right?
see work finally happening there. It's great.
You get all the administrative stuff, regulatory stuff that takes forever to get out of the way. And once they get the green light to go,
They're going.
it doesn't take long
Couple weeks.
for the work,
Mm-mm.
right? You just have to get to that point. So that's pretty much what this administration's been
Bureaucratic-
going
Fine.
through
Bureaucratic bullshit.
and getting through all the permits, getting through all the OKs, Yeah, you
Protect
can
the
do that.
frogs, Protect the raspberries.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
The
frogs
I
and
know,
raspberries.
I
We
know.
can't be
God
digging
forbid,
them
though,
up.
but that was a sticking point,
I
you know?
know. Salamanders
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing people don't realize.
Turtles.
This, when you get to the state level,
Spiders.
nothing moves quickly.
Nope.
Right.
No,
So that's got to be the frustrating thing,
Yeah.
right?
it's extremely
But
frustrating.
but the thing is about that is even though it's going slow, if nothing's moving and nothing's being said, no communications, and people come up with their own rumors of what's
Mhm.
going on, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's why you got to have a PIO, public information officer, because
Yeah.
you have to pass that information out little bits.
Yep.
Would that be a volunteer position or would that be a paid position?
Could
Should be a
person in the town hall.
I
Should be-
agree.
Should
I
be an
think-
existing position.
When
Part
you
of,
get
part of a
into-
job description
Yeah,
already.
when you get into town government, state, and all that, it's called communications
Yeah.
officer.
Mhm.
So Rachel says, got a call at 3 a.m. once for a man having impotence.
Oh my God.
That happens.
Oh, no.
Oh my God.
You know what? That's an emergency.
This is an emergency.
Give him some epi.
Oh my God.
Get that heart going.
There was that call that you had late at night.
Oh, they have blue
years
pills in
ago.
the one of the emergency trucks. I don't know.
There was a call I remember you telling me about that you had years ago where a guy had called and he was having chest pains
Yes.
and I guess he said something about like, well, when I'm
Every
doing
time I'm rubbing it, it hurts.
it hurt.
That's
No,
all.
my
Well,
chest hurts more. And he's like, well, stop.
Stop rubbing it.
I'm like, you can't. Like, really? I was like, no, you didn't really say that. He goes, oh yeah,
I
I did.
Have you guys had any calls about somebody stuck in the parking lot?
And Rachel said he was
Stop it.
alone. Rachel
No.
says he was alone.
Yeah, man.
Oh, well, that's a big issue then, huh? So, Rachel, what did you do for that? How did you treat that?
Please,
Tenderly.
please elaborate.
Gently or?
Oh my god.
That's something for Dr. Phil.
Then went from family G ratings to
Oh
R
my
all of a
God.
sudden. So
That's
anyway,
funny. I love listening to stories of people who are in EMS and the calls like that. That just cracks.
You got to remember though that there's some paid services in the state, but everything in the town and in the borough is all volunteer.
Yeah.
They do get stipends for the amount of calls that they go on,
It covers half the
you know,
gas.
but it
Maybe.
covers gas for the calls you have
For
to
the year,
drive to
yeah.
and all that. But yeah, so they deserve a round of applause for everything that they do. I don't think they get enough respect or
I don't think people really understand, because you have people that are, that'll say, well, they signed up for it. I mean, they want to volunteer. So, why should I really care? I mean, they're the ones choosing to do it. And yeah, you're right. They are. But at least just appreciate
Yeah.
what they're doing, because it's not just they're going to calls. It's all the training. It's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the continuing education.
Well,
I mean, how many hours
It's the
do
fact
you
that they
need?
Give you a
get up
good
from the dinner
example.
Table. They wake
Right.
up at 2:00
give
in
you
the
a-
morning. You know?
Mhm.
I'll give you a good
When they have
example.
to go to work at 4.
A couple weeks ago, we had a fire mutual aid we went to. 5 o'clock in the morning or something. They came in 6. I forget. Doesn't matter.
It was early.
It was real early. Like I wasn't awake when it came in. Let's put it that way.
I think you're at work.
No, I was home. But they went in Musa.
You went to them?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
So we went and 14 people from Jewett City alone
Mhm.
went to that fire,
Which is,
which it was amazing.
I
To
mean,
Musa.
yeah.
Move it
yeah.
to another town's fire, which is great because we could help. 14 people.
Mm.
Half of those people then went to another training afterwards, and we were there
Yeah.
for 4 hours.
Well, they were there for a full day at
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
training.
and then they
so,
went there for a full day at the training
Yeah.
in Dayville.
so those volunteers,
Yeah.
were gone.
And it was 90 degrees that
Yeah,
day.
it
or
was
The
something.
whole
hot.
day.
Yeah.
But the other thing about that, when you guys were at that fire, at the same time, there was another
Yeah,
medical
we had
call
another
here
medical
in
call, yeah.
town, and there were still 4 people here
took
that
that-
went to
that took
that
that
call
call.
at the same time, while the other 14 were
Hmm.
up in Musa helping
Mhm.
them out.
Mhm.
So, and yeah, all volunteer.
All volunteer,
Yeah.
no pay. And those people that went to the training in Dayville went to the first part of that training the day before.
hmm
It was all day.
hmm
And
Yeah.
didn't get paid.
And that's
Yeah.
that's what I think, just appreciate
Yeah.
the amount of time that goes into that.
And I got the class with no one in this town paid for it because I got it as a grant.
Yeah.
For
Oh,
them
yeah.
for them to go to
Yeah.
the class.
Yep. Yeah, the town didn't have to pay for anybody to go to that.
Grants.
Through the fire department.
We're going to talk about that.
Really? Grants. Paul's
Well,
biting at
it's
the
not
bit
the
talking about
process.
grants
We'll
and
see
grant
your-
writer and all
I
other
can
stuff. But
records, yeah.
I've got to
Yeah.
update us. Let's see. Victoria says the hubby had a call where a guy was in a hot tub, and when he got out, he climbed over a metal fence, and his junk got stuck on the metal. It was winter time. Ouch.
And it froze right to the metal.
Hey.
Well, at least it was wintertime, so it
I was
was
gonna
strong.
say everything was kind of.
It was like a little snail.
Turtle.
But he had just gotten out of the hot tub.
Playing turtle.
Ouch. I can
Yeah.
only imagine.
Oh.
I had a
what do
cop
you
in
do
New
with
London
that?
one time. We had to call him for help. We were like, oh, great, he needs help. They went down there. He got stuck on the fence helping a deer. There's a whole femur and everything went right through the fence at the St. Mary's Cemetery.
Oh, God.
Ouch.
So he's like, they had to
Yeah.
cut the fence with his leg still in.
Still
it.
in it. Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh, Rachel had him sign a refusal. Went back to the station and tried to get our dispatchers to stop laughing.
That was the impotence
He
call.
signed
Yeah,
a
yeah.
refusal. What is that?
Why'd
That's
you
what
call?
kills me
Why
too.
did you call?
Because
That
you
happens
guys,
all the time.
it does, and I don't understand. They'll call 911. You guys get out of bed at 3 a.m. to go to this 911 call for, somebody obviously
Yep.
needs help. You get there and then you come home and I'm like, well, how was it? Everything okay? Oh, they signed a refusal. Well, what the hell? Why?
It was an emergency at one point.
He was up
I don't
there.
understand that.
Yeah,
I
simple.
just
Oh, you
don't
couldn't get up.
understand
Wow.
those. But that happens
Happens
way
a
more
lot.
often than I ever knew.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and that I don't think people realize that either.
Yeah.
These
Oh,
people, they get these calls all the time and
Yep.
you go and they're like, no, I'm
Remember-
good.
I don't really want to go to the hospital.
Right.
I don't
See,
really wanna
Jewish
go get
City-
checked out.
Jewish City has this thing. I don't know why, but it'll be dead for a little while. Then all of a sudden, you have
Back.
5 to 10 calls.
Back to
Yeah.
back to back to back.
And there's some nights that, like me and Lou especially, we'll get up and we'll go, and we're up for 4 calls that night.
And you're just sitting at the firehouse, essentially,
We'll
like
never
doing,
leave.
doing
yeah.
your paperwork and your reports, and
And another
that's
call
part of
comes
it.
in.
Yeah.
And then another call comes in, and they're gone. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, when I go on a call, I go back to the firehouse. I told the wife, hey, got to go to a call. She can tell because I'm running down the stairs.
Yeah.
Got a call, don't you? Yeah. So you going to stop by the firehouse and shoot the shit?
Yep.
Oh, yeah,
That's
probably.
that's
Part
just
of it.
part of the call.
Yeah.
We
That's part of the
actually have
call.
a rule there.
You
You
know.
have a rule. There should be going back to the
Yeah.
firehouse.
Yeah.
after the
So,
Yeah.
That way you check in and we know you're okay and everything.
yeah.
Yeah, I-
Most of the time I do. Sometimes I don't.
Well, if you say if I go like this to you,
You're good.
I see you.
Yeah.
Did we do something wrong?
So your
Do we
name's
need
on
to
the
talk
report.
about something?
Yeah, but after action
Yeah, because
review.
sometimes
yeah.
you debrief
Hit it
and
right then.
yeah.
And sometimes, you know, you get another person show up and they say, you got enough people? Yep. Okay. And they take off.
Mhm.
But then I go back to the firehouse. Hey, this person showed up. And he said,
Mhm.
but we had enough people. He left. I said, okay.
Yeah.
So he gets credit for showing up.
Because those people stand by at the firehouse
Mhm.
sometimes.
Yep.
There's another call.
which is
Well,
like,
comes
and
back.
that's a good problem to have,
Listen,
that you
got 'em
have
out
too
of bed
many
at 2 o'clock
people.
in the morning, they're
Get
awake.
something out of it,
Mhm.
They're
right?
awake.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's
so let's give Paul the stage.
Oh, what?
Oh,
What do you want to talk about? Rich mentioned, grants. What do you want to talk about?
Oh,
You've been listening to all the EMS stuff. I'm going to give you the stage to talk about something.
Oh, yeah. What we want to do is, I think what we need to do is to put some people together to look at the pros and cons of putting a grant writer in town. You know, what's the good things, what's the bad things. I have written a letter to the CCM group, which is,
Connecticut Council of Municipalities.
yes. And I wrote a letter to the woman asking her to supply me names of towns that would have grant writers. If that's the case, we can get that, then we can contact them and talk to them and find out, how'd you guys do
How's it
this?
working out?
Mhm.
Yeah.
are there
So-
regional grant writers?
I'm looking for towns that already have them.
Are there
Mhm.
regions that have them though that we can reach out to as well?
No, we got a
I-
neighbor
I
right
don't know
north
if
of
there's
us that's
such a
got
thing.
one.
All I wanna
Look
do
for the
is-
towns that have their own grant.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
See
So
what's
we
it
can get
costing,
the-
how they.
Yeah,
what are
how they went
bringing in?
about it, how
What are
they,
they
yep,
bringing in?
Yeah.
learn about it, how,
So
okay.
if we can get all that information together in some kind of a presentation,
Mhm.
then we can meet with certain people, like the Democratic Town Committee, Republican Town Committee. We can go to the Senior Center and present these things to see if we can push it for next fall.
I'm in.
Because we're not going to do it now. It's impossible.
Yeah.
But
There's
we
no-
need to
there's
get
no
it
money
on
there.
ducks
Yeah.
in
There's
line.
money
So,
there, but there's no money there.
I'm in. I'll help you with that.
so that's what we need
Yeah.
to do.
Yep.
If we
I can
don't-
put a presentation together.
No, yeah. So we got to get this-
PowerPoint, I can do PowerPoint.
So we need to get the people who wants to volunteer to do it.
I'm in.
All
All
right. So there you go.
right, we got a committee. All in
All right.
favor?
Well,
Aye.
All right.
So
If I get something back from the woman,
Yeah.
I'll send it back to
It
her.
would
She's on vacation now.
No way.
I'll tell you what, I will try and get in touch with Mr. Cunningham up north because they've got one. And we can start
That's-
there.
That's the reason why he's coming in.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's why he's coming in.
Yeah.
Because
I haven't gotten a date when he's coming in yet. I've
That's
asked
why
Mike.
He's coming is
Yeah.
because I talked to him.
Yeah.
When I was up last week.
I know CCOG and NECOG, they have some people that do them, but
Yeah.
I don't think they're full time.
Yeah.
I think it would be nice too if we could get because a grant writer, depending on how it's set up, could be a nice little side gig for somebody or something like that. And that may be good for some of the younger, like maybe some stay-at-home moms that want a little side gig, and
Yeah.
we get like some fresh eyes. I hope it's not like the same group of people that are doing everything in town, because I mean, it's like you go to meetings, it's always the same people. It's always,
Yep.
I would love to see new people get involved and, maybe.
Well,
that
think
might be what
outside
we
the
do.
box. We need some think outside the
Yeah,
box
some
thinking.
different
Just look at, there's other
perspectives.
grants out there for
Mhm.
something that we're specifically looking at. Like, I believe they talked about the last meeting, the regular Board of Select meeting, that there's a $110,000 grant that was provided for cleaning up the Petrillo property.
No, I didn't know what that
Right.
was. What is that property?
That's
Oh,
the,
that's an old garage, an old repair facility.
right before you get into Voluntown. It's been an eyesore, this has been like a pet project for one of the individuals that go to the Board of Select meetings, and he sits up front. Hey, brought it up.
Hmm.
And I guess they-
138?
Every month
They've
you
been
get-
going through like a
every
bankruptcy
month, right before you get
court
into
issue,
Gotcha.
which got denied. So now they can move
Oh,
forward
I know what you're talking
with the
about.
foreclosure.
Yeah.
And I
okay.
guess there's some contamination in the soil and stuff like that
Yeah.
needs to be cleaned up. So,
I know. Yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So that,
Yeah,
So they got
there's-
a grant
there's
for
already
that?
tests.
Yeah, they got a grant.
$150,000 for that.
So who wrote that?
I think it was
don't know,
110.
but They did. It was in the paper.
Yeah.
Because they showed the picture of the building.
Yeah.
It was in the bulletin
And-
Oh,
probably
there's another
several months
110
ago.
out there now.
And some of these grants, don't necessarily require like that specialty
Right,
writing
right.
and all of that,
Very
right? Some
few
of
do.
them, okay.
Very few.
I would imagine like the really big ones, the larger ones, the USDA ones,
Yeah.
from what I understand, are a pain
Yeah,
in
you
the
gotta
ass
get
Well,
to do
they're not
that.
necessarily a pain in the ass. It's just you have to know that you have to meet the language.
Right, the requirements, what they're looking for.
Yeah,
right?
on
Grants
the-
being provided
On
for,
the
you gotta-
offering, you have
Right.
to match the key terms. You
Yep,
have to,
yep.
like when I do some of the emergency management ones, you have to say, you have to find out. And I ask a couple people, what is the, the goal this year that we're Homeland Security and
Yeah.
what they're looking
I try
for.
to
Last
tie it
year it
into
was
that.
terrorism. This year it's cybersecurity. And like I brought up to the town, like we have all this cybersecurity grants available.
Yeah.
Let's take advantage of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the borough needs it right now.
Yeah.
The borough had a grant writer, they'd be
There-
writing that grant, several grants for that freaking plant down
Yeah.
there.
Water sewer.
And
Who's
that-
gonna write it?
And that may, well,
But
I
one
mean,
of the
that may be
problems you run
happening.
into is those grants aren't necessarily available right now. Like a
Grants
lot of
take a long
the
time.
emergency management ones, like
Yeah.
two I'm going to be putting in for a couple of the fire department.
Yep.
Those don't open up for another couple months.
Yeah.
So they're not even available.
Well, no, and
So
then,
that's
and
the
then
other
they
thing that
open, and
they're-
then they're
Be
there,
ready for
and then
them.
it,
Yeah.
but
There's
then
no
it-
announcement.
But then there's
There is a
you know, you may
time
have
schedule
4
for
months or
grants to
something.
be, I think it's March is usually when they look at them, right?
So, yeah, some
For
of them.
different-
And that's why they
Depends
need
on
to
the
be
cycle.
put in. Yeah. So
Like right now, I'm working on the regional one for
Yep.
search and rescue, and that one opens up right now, but it closes August 1st. So you have to put in there there's requirements you have to meet. The
Hmm.
language, what is the goal this year? Why would this help to meet that goal?
Mm.
And then a lot of times, some of these grants are, well, how much is the department or town contributing?
Yeah.
So you have to have a guarantee from the town. They're contributing sometimes up to 50% of what
Right.
your grant is being written
Right.
for to meet that project.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's where,
Rachel just mentioned there's a foundation that has grants to towns and organizations. Maybe that's something to look into. Eblin Foundation.
Hmm.
And that's the thing. There's so many out there, and I would think that grant writers, like
Would
the
know.
professional grant writers, would
Would
know,
know.
or there's some kind of repository or some kind of website that lists, like all these grants that are available in our state or federally or whatever.
Yeah.
and I got
Um,
Victoria asking, Rich, are you the emergency management director for
I
your
was just
town?
responding. The
No.
deputy.
No, he's one of the deputies. Yeah.
We need to also make sure that the Board of Finance is on board with us.
Oh, of course.
That's one of the other things you have to look at. It's not just filing
Yeah,
form. You
so
have to have all this.
That's
And
why
that's
it's
the hardest
important to have your facts lined up in a presentation and
That's the
present
whole
it.
thing.
That's
the
it.
hardest
Because
part.
When
if you
we-
just
when we
stand up
were-
and say, "Hey, I think we need to have a grant writer," okay, that goes in one ear out the other. But if you have numbers, you have successes, you have pros and cons, and you got it all in a presentation, then it's all in front of them.
We did that when we went after the referendums, one for the gas, one for the senior center, and one for the infrastructure. There were presentations put together by all three individuals that were working on that. And we went to all these groups
Mhm.
and presented
Mhm.
the three referendums and explained to people what they were all about. And they went through.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
Very
great, and it should always
Yeah.
be done that
As long as
way.
you
I
tell-
think. I mean,
As long as you tell people what they
Same.
are, what the pros and cons are, I think
Good thing.
people will
This
understand.
on
it.
today's.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
yeah, and
Because
we've
they're
done
gonna save
that.
money in the long run.
We've done that with the borough. So when we were getting ready to purchase
Oh,
the
there-
borough
there it
building, there
is.
was discussions about that. We put a presentation together, and it was exactly that. Here are the pros that we feel, here are
Yep.
the cons. We're appreciating that there are downsides or whatever.
Right.
And we went through the whole thing. We had all the money and
Yep.
and I mean everything down, and it generated good discussion. And I mean, I think at that one, I want to say there were 50 people in that room that voted that night. But that's exactly what we did. We went and had a whole presentation up on the
Yeah.
screen and presented everything. And we did it again recently regarding the wastewater treatment plant. Had a
Yep.
presentation. We went through the history of it, how we got to where we are, the numbers, like all of it, and plan moving forward,
Yeah.
potential solutions, short term, intermediate, long term, what
Yep.
we're, so everybody has that information.
And that's the problem in this town. Nobody does that.
We do that in the borough.
I mean, they get the borough. does that,
And they
but-
did a
but let's
presentation
get
for the
this-
water sewer thing the other
Yeah.
week there too.
I
Also,
agree. It was done that way. But let's take this meeting we went to this week,
Which one?
yeah.
the one we had, what was
The
it,
referendum,
Monday night,
the-
Tuesday night?
the
If they would
vote
have taken that information it explained it better than just 3 freaking sentences based on what they were looking at.
Yeah.
It told people what it was about. You think we would have spent an hour and a half talking about?
Asking questions and.
No, because people would have been able to understand what the heck this thing was all about.
Mhm.
But it wasn't that way. It was just this article, this article. Who the hell reads that stuff? Nobody.
I,
It would be nice, I think, what would be nice in the, actually,
There's
this reminds me.
How
we
many
still have
people
to
come
pick
to
up
the
our
public
team
health and
meeting.
safety
oh,
meeting?
yeah.
None.
How many people come to the ordinance meeting? Maybe one.
Sometimes I
How many
go.
people
You
come
know,
to
If they're
ADC?
affected.
How many people come
Well,
to
it
the
was two
Economic
last
Development
time.
Yeah, you
Commission?
guys have the time,
Yeah, I know it.
but normally there's nobody.
Nobody.
Yeah.
That was made clear at that meeting, right? By
Mhm.
the guy
Right.
that left.
Yeah.
So, but I agree with you that if they came up with a PowerPoint, this is why we're doing, this is the purpose.
Yeah.
This is the objective, you know, and then here's the information. And these are the state statutes we looked at.
Mhm.
Now, this is the language. This is what it means. This is how the people are being protected, you know, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
It would have been a lot better.
I mean, Jen was there. She could have worked with them and all of this. They got it all together.
And just put it all
Didn't happen
together.
that way.
You had the tax collector and the town clerk there
Yeah.
too.
Mhm.
The problem with
Right.
the committees that they have too, though, that I see, is they have no bite. You know,
Right.
you've got these committees that get together and talk about things, and it goes nowhere.
They can just
Correct.
offer up like
why.
recommendations
Yeah.
or
And
suggestions.
That's what we
It's like-
tried to do. We
It's like they
wanted,
turn a deaf ear to it.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
they don't listen to it. Listen, it doesn't fit.
Well,
their
here's the
agenda.
other thing that annoyed me about that meeting is that somebody brought up the issue that the reason the board of selectmen are doing this because it takes too long to get an ordinance pushed through. Right? I have a problem with
Isn't
that because
wrong.
if you communicate, it does take a while,
Mhm.
Sure.
but if you communicate, we want to work through this and be efficient with it and get it through because this is why, because the town clerk's leaving in November. We want to make sure we have something in place, you know, to proceed replacing her, you know, instead of waiting for an election or something like
There's
that.
plenty
Right?
of talk about going to a bigger board of selectmen, and they have acknowledged that, but they're not even taking it to the town attorney till the fall. You know, so they just
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh.
it was brought up at a meeting, and you know, it's like, yeah, it's something that we'll probably take to the town attorney in the fall.
The
Well, they've
idea
got a
of it or
committee.
draft?
They got a committee formed to look at different forms of government.
Now they do.
Yeah.
Right.
That was not back when they talked about
Oh.
this, right?
But
You know?
going back to the committees, I
Yes.
think they need to start listening to the committees. Because we're bringing this knowledge to them, what we're specializing in as a committee.
Exactly.
And
don't.
which I think we need an ordinance change
Yeah.
to where these committees have bite.
A little bit of bite.
we tried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got
They're
stepped
never going
on.
to give you that power.
We tried. We
Yeah.
got stepped on.
I mean, look at them. They don't give you money to do anything.
There's
Well,
no,
Well, promote
I
yourself.
think some of that was a language issue in the ordinance that caused some problems.
but have we gained any power? No. Have we gotten the AEDs at the,
Listen, the committee's not looking to run the town.
Well, here's the thing. We had the
You got
public
these
health and
committees
safety.
to come up with ideas and do
ordinance.
things. I mean,
Yeah.
capitalize on
Well,
it. Move
here's-
forward.
There's
Do
another
something.
thing. We voted on those 3 ordinances, right?
Yeah.
We had that, the Board of Selectmen still have the public health and safety ordinance that should have
Yeah.
been brought up and voted on as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
have we
Yeah.
signed it?
They
Has it
agreed
been on
it.
one of their agendas?
They're holding it.
I know,
Yeah,
but
they-
so
they-
they haven't put it
No,
on the
they
agenda yet?
voted to move it to referendum.
Oh.
Yeah, it should. Well, yeah,
Oh, so
it
it's
should
just
have been
sitting
brought then
waiting for a
too.
referendum?
Correct.
I don't know.
Maybe they want to
Why?
combine it with another
So
one
it's
so
not
to
necess-
save money?
The problem isn't the ordinance committee is not doing the work. Problem is, again, like it's always being talked about, the communication.
Mhm.
Communicate to us at what you need, and then we'll work with you on it. That's all.
So there's, wait a minute, which ordinances?
Public health and safety is done.
That's
What- I
done.
don't know
He
what
he had all the
ordinance is that.
stakeholders sign off on it. It was ready to go.
No, I know, but what ordinance is that?
That's the one that gives public health and safety, and basically it meets all year. It
Change some rules on when you can.
changed some of the rules. The fire
Yeah.
chiefs, EMS, they give a report to public health and safety every month.
Well, they're doing that now.
Yeah, okay.
They're
gotcha.
doing it voluntarily, but
Yep.
the ordinance says that, well, Lou is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so that was
Yeah.
signed off and the Board of Selectmen are on board with it, but it just needs to go to referendum?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why wasn't it brought up at last meeting?
Which very easily could have been voted on. last
Why was
meeting.
not brought up?
Yeah.
that
Put on
meeting?
the agenda.
I don't know.
It's why it would have taken 10 minutes because
Yeah.
no one would
Not
care.
even that.
And no one would care.
Although we can't say that for sure. though.
Yeah. Well, majority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, do,
it-
do you know why it hasn't? Maybe they've forgotten?
it
I
just
don't
really
know.
has
It's
the
just-
public health and safety more involved in the EMS and stuff like that in the town, really.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes
You
sense,
know,
but if
we
it's
have
ready
some-
to go and it's just
right.
sitting there, then.
It's the communication.
I mean, we were sitting in the booth during Heroes Day, you know, when I had my $107 banner hanging up there, and that I haven't
And
got
it is
paid for,
yours.
and it's
Yeah.
mine. Anybody needs it, you know, come see me.
Yep.
And there were people that walked in there. I didn't know we had a public health and safety committee,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, no
stuff
clue.
like that. So it was good for awareness because a lot of people saw that, you know. And then we also had a person from CERT,
Yeah.
you know.
Speaking of CERT, I have 16 people signed up that are interested.
Perfect.
Wow.
That's
Great.
great.
Awesome.
Wow.
Waiting
Excellent.
for the signatures
Excellent. Perfect.
from the
Signatures.
board of
That's
selectmen.
good. So some people
Oh,
followed
sign
up
the
from your presentation at the senior center.
No, that's different.
So people followed up from the senior center presentation
Yep.
and stuff like
I have a
that.
full list,
You
16
know, we had
people.
at least one individual sign up that day when we had our, you know,
Yeah.
booth, you
I
know,
have to
so.
send an email like, we have 16 people. Let's get this thing signed.
It sounds like
Yeah,
maybe you need
perfect.
to just send an email to the BOS and say, look, these are the things that are outstanding. Can you please give us an update on, and just bullet them? You know,
Yeah.
the
And
cert, the
We have a
memorandum,
meeting in
the
2 weeks,
whatever.
right?
Yeah.
That a lot of that will be discussed, I'm sure. I
Well,
mean,
one meeting is ordinance and one meeting is the shelter and
Yeah.
That's the shelter
Probably.
one. That's sort of,
insurance. Yeah.
okay.
Well, CERT's not on the list, but
All right. So noise ordinance is one of the ordinances that they were talking about. I think that's what they were mentioning. It's going too slow. Well,
I don't know. I don't
Give us a
understand-
call.
I don't
Give us an
understand the issue
email.
with that. Why can't we just defer to state statute?
so
We
I
can.
pulled up
Oh.
the state statute. That's got a lot of stuff in it. A lot of stuff.
Well, I mean, we can't remove any of that.
No.
We can only become more strict with it
Right.
as an ordinance. So why can't we just defer to it?
So
we can just put
We
in
can.
there, the town of Griswold shall refer to the state statute in reference to noise complaints.
Right.
Yep.
So, I mean, which is kind, I mean, that's already what happens, right?
Yes.
right now,
Because it's a state. So I
Yeah.
don't, what am I missing?
do we need another ordinance unless, you know, we can just
I would
refer to
not-
the state statute?
The only
And
thing
the other
we-
thing is the town can't enforce it, but the borough could
Exactly.
because we don't have cops.
The
Oh,
town
right.
can enforce it.
But yeah,
It's
I mean, they
just,
can
I
enforce it,
talked
they just
to
have-
Martin.
Yeah.
Is that any state trooper that comes in the town can enforce every
Yeah.
state law
Right.
and town ordinance also. So they may not know what the ordinance is, but they can, everybody, these noise complaints that people say, oh, the troop won't do anything. It's like, well, one, vote to have more than 5 troopers and troop B per shift. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
But also in a stacking of complaints, your noise complaint
Yeah. It's
is
pushed
way
to
on the bottom.
Yeah.
Because they're worried about the domestics, the assaults,
Yeah.
car accidents, and all that. But the state troopers will come in and they can enforce a noise complaint. I've already confirmed that with the resident trooper. And
Okay. There
With
you
their
go.
current equipment and.
yeah, everything they have. They
They're-
can drive up and go, you know what, that music is outrageous. Okay. Well, just turn it down or you're getting.
And we don't need an ordinance. They just need to follow the state statute, or we just write an ordinance saying follow the state statute. So what? Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
But the problem, we have new policies for the ordinance committee we're following because yes, it was taking astronomically too long.
Yep.
When I became chairman, I even told them, guys, this is taking too long. There's no reason for it. So we came up with a policy, how the process will work when they develop an ordinance, which dropped it down to 3 months, I think.
Yeah. It made it
And-
quicker.
Made it quicker. And right now it's in subcommittee with 2 people. We're waiting on a draft from them
Right.
of their noise ordinance, Dave Yu and Larry Lately. So we're waiting for their one draft together that they come up with to present as a noise ordinance proposal. The committee looks at it, looks good, or I want to change this, and boom, that's
So
it.
you are looking to write a specific.
It's
You know, we
already
don't keep
have-
revisiting it month
not
after
just
month
defer
after
to
month.
state
And if
statute.
somebody's been out for a
We
couple
were
months,
asked- we were
So there's-
asked to develop a state
Right.
town ordinance.
Right.
We were asked to.
That does not defer to state statute.
No, we were just asked to develop a town ordinance. So they want an ordinance.
Okay.
So what the ordinance can say, we refer to all sections of blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And then we could also still add,
Not just me.
we want this
Yeah.
little change or to more strict on this. Or like, for instance, you were saying with motorcycles or something,
Yeah.
they can only go above so many decibels. Or
Yeah,
they can't have what,
straight pipes.
some-
and-
vehicles, too.
Yeah.
yeah, vehicles. Some towns
Yep.
have that. They can, only- so, or tractor trailers cannot use their Jake brakes in
breaks in town,
downtown,
yeah.
something like that.
Gotcha.
But the problem is these ordinances, if you, we saw it last time, the last meeting, if you push them through too quick, you're going to come up with issues. You
Yeah.
can't,
You're gonna miss things.
you have to
and,
go through each line. That's what we
Right.
sent it to subcommittee for. So you guys are working on redoing
We're reviewing ordinances,
Right.
updating them,
that was the
Taking-
main.
making sure they
focus of
still fit the
ordinance
time
committee.
that we're in today.
So
True.
Wayne and Jim sit, I don't know, breakfast or at their house or whatever, and they can sit there and they go together.
Yep.
Line by line of the ordinances. I agree
Sounds
with this.
painful. Oh my God.
So
Yes, it
Bless
can
you.
be.
Oh my God.
It's so
that
exciting.
sounds
From the 70s, God,
painful.
they needed updates.
Somebody's got to do it, but Jim's got it. I'll tell you what, he's got all the history from the last time. So he's got a list of the last time these things were looked at.
Oh, yeah.
So he says, "Oh, this was just looked at in 17. I don't, we can do a quick skim through it and see if it needs anything, but I doubt it." So we do
Oh,
that.
I've seen his
We
notebooks.
got to,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no,
we
I
really
know.
need to sit down again. So I'll
Is that
send
what
him
you
an
guys
email.
were doing when we had the shelter open at the firehouse?
Yes.
Because I know you
Yep.
guys came in. Okay, so that's what you were working on.
Yep.
So then it comes out of them from subcommittee, it goes to the whole committee. And then
Ordinance committee.
we
Yep.
vote to accept it or make a
Update,
couple of
whatever,
changes.
Right.
And whatever is accepted can no longer be changed.
Yeah, you're not
And
going
that's
back
what
and-
stops it from going
Back
into
and
those
forth.
2 years worth of short-term rental deliberation.
And we had individuals miss a couple meetings and they come in and says, "Well, I haven't been involved in this. So I really, so I'm going to vote no." Well, you need to abstain.
Yeah.
Really, because you haven't been involved.
You
But
haven't
we're
been
not,
involved.
we got to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
If we have the majority of the people here and they agree with it,
And you
then
shouldn't
we
be
move
coming to
forward.
meetings not prepared.
right?
I know people are busy, but you can't come to a meeting not prepared.
It's too bad.
Yeah. So it was a good conversation today. We went into an hour and a half.
It's good. It
So
was all important.
Got
Yeah.
our money's worth out of the queen.
yeah, we did. Yeah, she's been here over an hour. There you go.
We
So-
learned how to solve impotence. Call the
Yeah.
ambulance.
Yep. Call an ambulance, a sign of refusal.
Yeah.
The carriage is outside with all the white horses.
So we talked about a million things, and I hope everybody got a lot of information and their ears aren't bleeding. But there you go. So I will see you again Monday. Paul will be here more than likely.
Yep, Monday.
I'll have to see how Mike's doing and get in touch with him.
Yeah.
And he's
Today
dealing with
he
some
was down,
personal
right?
issues. So
He's
we'll,
dealing with that today, right?
yeah. So we'll find out more, and then I'll see if I'm here, and I'll send out my weekly draft that I always do
So it
as
can
the
be
17
changed every
fire
day.
Yeah.
program director. But I got a lot of good support here, get a lot of good feedback, and we do communicate to each other. So there you go. I hope
Almost
everybody
too
has
much.
you
guys
not too much.
in your damn group chat, back and forth, Jesus.
Well, we do poke fun at each
Well,
other.
here's
so
my-
there-
Right? Ding, ding,
Ding, ding, ding. What do you say, Kathy? It looks like what? A bunch of what?
You guys are like, you're worse than a bunch of women. I mean, I was sitting in the borough building with Lori one day, just going over a presentation that we were putting together for the wastewater treatment plant, and my phone was just off to the side. We were there maybe an hour and a half
Vibrating across
working
the
on
table,
it.
right?
Well, I didn't even hear it, but we were there maybe an hour and a half or so working on it, and I picked up my phone. 59 text messages.
We had important stuff
On
to
that
talk
group
I
about.
think that was bad. And there's Rich with this thing on his
Ridiculous.
nightstand. He's trying to sleep and he's going. Bzz, bzz, bzz.
Yeah. Oh
And
my
we keep
God,
forgetting
I
that he's
couldn't
sleeping,
believe it. I was like,
It
59?
vibrates off the nightstand.
Yeah.
Boom, on the floor. Wakes the
Uh-huh.
dog up.
Yep.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I got excited
Good
for a
times.
second. I thought
Yeah.
something else.
Wait, stop it.
All right.
God, on that note,
On that note, you guys everybody have a good weekend out there. You guys be careful, and we'll try to minimize the chatter so we don't bother Kathy while she's building another spreadsheet.
yeah.
All right. Have a good weekend, and somebody will be here Monday. We'll figure it out.
We will.
All right. Have a
See
good
ya.
day.
See ya.
Bye.
Enjoy. Giddy up.